Before we start the program, a small announcement since we are living in extraordinary times. And, our Chief Secretary is leading the battle against. There is a meeting scheduled at 11. So we will slightly rejig the order of speakers and so that he can leave by 9:40, 9:45 latest, 10:45 latest.
10:45.
And 10:45. And so a warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers and the participants who are viewing this session from YouTube. Technology has helped us, saved us during this COVID crisis, and going forward, probably its use will accelerate further. So we'll have an intense discussion throughout the day and how it will benefit governance, businesses, and society at large. So thank you everyone, and I would now request Mr. Ashok Kajaria, Chairman, FICCI Rajasthan State Council, and CMD Kajaria Ceramics Limited for his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Atul. Very good morning to all of you. I think everybody can hear.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of FICCI and on my personal behalf, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you at the second edition of Rajasthan IoT Summit. A special welcome to Shri D.B. Gupta, Chief Secretary, Rajasthan, and His Excellency, Mr. Suzuki, Ambassador of Japan to India. Friends, as we all know, technology has come to our rescue. These testing times of lockdown 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we could communicate, learn, entertain, and do a lot of things through its use. Going forward, we would witness an accelerated adoption of technology in governance, businesses, and society. Emerging technologies such as Internet of Things, IoT, for which the seminar is being held today, are shaping our lives and disrupting the traditional businessman at a rate of change never seen before in the history. After going through 3 industrial revolutions that brought about significant technological developments over a period of more than 2 centuries, the world is currently witnessing the 4th industrial revolution, which is taking technology adoption by the world's factories to a whole next level. The 4th industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0, is bringing together production system via network, allowing real-time data sharing at an unprecedented speed and scale. In order to unleash the true value of Industry 4.0, it has to transcend large manufacturing companies and become accessible to the 50 million plus enterprises that make up India's MSME sector. Putting the Indian MSME sector at the forefront of the 4th industrial revolution will need significant push in terms of funds, infrastructure, technical know-how, and exposure to make the benefits of Industry 4.0 accessible to all segments of the industry. I think this is the need of the hour, sir. FICCI is committed to work closely with the Rajasthan government and other stakeholders so as to put Rajasthan and the nation at large in a bright spot. We are glad to provide a platform for collaboration of stakeholders from different industries to develop a new solution for our future. With this, thank you very much and a successful interaction during the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And with these words, I would request Mr. Bimal Patwari, Chairman of Rajasthan IoT Summit and Chief Executive Officer, Pinnacle Infotech, for his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Atul. Good morning, everybody. Dear distinguished speakers of the summit today, entire FICCI organization committee, and dear audience. I feel so privileged today to be a part of this second Rajasthan IoT Summit. My heartfelt thanks to FICCI Rajasthan unit for organizing such a relevant summit in today's times. Last year, in my address, I had said, IoT is changing our lives. Little did I realize that while I was speaking, another monster was listening to me in China. COVID-19, the monster, has challenged us and threatening to change our lives even more. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going, as people say. COVID-19, listen carefully. Technology has accepted your challenge, and we will not only bring our life to normal, but even better. COVID has only speeded up the expansion of the IoT applications and the impact on our lives. In today's summit, we are privileged to have expert speakers from all over the world: Japan, Israel, Greece, UK, US, and of course, India. Today, we have great presentations on the impact of IoT technology on healthcare, construction, transportation, logistics, and every sphere of our lives. Countries today are mustering all their resources to deploy cutting-edge technology to mitigate the effects of COVID-19. Overlaying GIS systems on IoT mobile data can assist epidemiologists in their search for patient zero and identify all the people who have come in contact with the infected patients. A lot of innovations have come up based on IoT to address the COVID challenges. Devices have been built to collect real-time patients' data to nurse station for continuous monitoring. Kinsa Health in Florida has built up a digital smart thermometer and a paired phone app to take more than 1 million consumers' temperature over the whole county in Florida. Just imagine if we could do that in India in every city and have a real-time mapping of the temperature of every citizen with location. Today, Mr. Rafi Zak from Israel will tell us more about how IoT and AI is revolutionizing the healthcare. Imagine a large warehouse of 2 lakh square feet and stocking 90,000 type of products, loading and unloading a truck in 20 minutes, and stacking all the products efficiently in the warehouse. Today, Naman is going to make a great presentation of the impact and AI on logistics and transportation. What would have probably taken 500 people to manage a warehouse can be done by 200 robots and just 50 people. Today, Amazon is using more than 1 lakh robotic units in 26 of their fulfillment centers. We are helping Amazon to build such a fulfillment center in US, which is spread over 3 kilometers. The whole logistics chain today is changing so much. Imagine you have to manage a warehouse which is 3 kilometers long. Our current world population of 7.8 billion is expected to become 9.7 billion in 2050, an increase of 24%. And the worst is the population of developed countries is going to remain stagnant, whereas all the growth will come from the less developed countries. This opens up even more challenges. Construction projects are becoming increasingly complex and they demand faster and safer completion. How do we solve our transportation problem and housing problem in urban areas? Do we have enough parking spaces in our cities which are getting crowded every day? Transportation in Bangalore has become a classic case where walking is faster than using a car. Today, Mr. Kostas from Greece will tell us how IoT and AI is addressing these problems. Our experts speakers today would be speaking on IoT and AI technology and tell us how these are solving our challenges. It is estimated that IoT devices will grow to 41 billion by 2027. And by 2023, it is estimated that 70% of the automobile will be connected to the internet. From sensors, they will transmit usage and mechanical condition data to manufacturers and dispatchers to internet connectivity that will facilitate better GPS and driver comfort. Over 80% of industrial manufacturing companies are estimated to use IoT devices today, from intelligent machines capable of performing automated tasks to augmented wearables that allow people to work more efficiently and safely. Companies are experimenting with new ways of putting the latest IoT innovations to use. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we are very excited today with this summit as we have great global speakers. Now, with every introduction of technology, it is followed by apprehension of employment reduction. When ATMs were introduced in banks, it was feared that there would be huge unemployment. But today, banking sector employs many, many more people than pre-ATM days. Same is the story with desktop publishing, replacing the manual printing press. Technology creates new type of job opportunities. We need to change our curriculum in schools and colleges. We need to retrain our people in the industry and government if we have to implement IoT successfully across the country. This summit plays a great role in bringing together all sections of our society to understand the impact of the technology and how we need to make the necessary adjustments. Today in this summit, we have members from government, academia, industry, facility providers, and users. I hope the deliberations during the day will bring clarity in the role of each one of us. I wish you all a very happy and informative session. Please stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patwari, for those opening remarks. And we are honored to have His Excellency Mr. Satoshi Suzuki, Ambassador of Japan to India, amongst us. Thank you, sir. We welcome you, and we wish Rajasthan is already home to a lot of Japanese companies, and we have a successful company-specific zone in Bhimrana. We would like to expand it further, create many more zones in different domains, and look forward to your guidance on that. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, and very good morning to everybody. Mr. Devendra Bhushan Gupta, Chief Secretary, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Ashok Kajaria, Chairman FICCI, Rajasthan State Council, Mr. Bimal Patwari, Chairman, Rajasthan IoT Summit, Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra, CEO, NASSCOM IoT Center of Excellence, Dr. Rishi Mohan Bhatnagar, President, India Aeris Communication, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to participate in the second Rajasthan IoT Summit today. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere respect to all the medical professionals working day in and day out in dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak. I also wish the current situation would get settled as soon as possible. So here goes the main part. IoT connects everything, including goods and persons, and AI integrates various forms of knowledge and information. With emerging technologies like IoT and AI, millions of services are now going digital. This is generating newly added values. As a result, the socio-economy of the world and people's lifestyles are getting drastically transformed. Against the backdrop of such a remarkable global trend, Japan has been trying to realize the Society 5.0 to achieve efficient productivity and human welfare. We call it Society 5.0, where a lot of social problems can be resolved by disruptive innovations that also help to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Let me give you some examples. These are things like providing telemedicine, diversifying and stabilizing energy supply, optimizing traffic and transportation, reinforcing supply chains and manufacturing, and managing national disasters. Even in the COVID-19 pandemic situation, new technologies are playing a huge role for curbing infection, diagnosing symptoms, developing drugs and vaccines. To cite an example of countermeasures using AI for preventing infection, one Japanese company is offering thermal monitoring with face detection and recognition solution for automatic screening and tracking of people. It flags the security personnel on a real-time basis to take proper measures for those who walking into the premises with a fever. On the other hand, I think all of us are truly facing the inconveniences caused by lack of essential items these days. The COVID-19 experience has actually become a wake-up call for recognizing the importance of maintaining supply chains for strategic item materials from the viewpoint of economic security. We need credible partners for diversifying supply chains. From this perspective, I'd like to stress today that such diversification can only be achieved through joint efforts by all the parties concerned. In this context, I have high hopes for further efforts in India to drastically improve the business environment. In India, Prime Minister Modi's Digital India initiative is making the country more and more transformative. It is digitally empowering the society. Japan is paying growing attention to this innovative policy. When Prime Minister Modi visited Japan in October 2018, our two governments signed an MOC on the Japan-India digital partnership. Supporting digital startups is an important pillar, and many startups from both countries have been successfully paired. I'm confident that the India-Japan collaboration can offer many solutions for overcoming challenges in this complicated and problematic world in the midst of kaleidoscope of changing circumstances. It is crucial to have stable, reliable, and secure network accessibility. Presence of an enhanced broadband like 5G is also desirable. Moreover, the concept of data free flow with trust is very important because the engine of economic growth is now driven not anymore with oil, but with data. At the G20 summit meeting hosted by Japan last year, the leaders launched the Osaka Track, a process which promotes international policy discussions on data flow. We need to accelerate this activity of preventing data fraud and intensive blockade without excessive regulations for harnessing the full potential of data. Only by doing so, we may be able to foster innovation so that we can keep pace with the fast-growing digital economy. In addition, ICT network with a conscious design to avoid cyber attacks is an urgent matter. We must take care while selecting supply chains of network gear so as not to deploy suspicious telecom products, that is to say, those products which cannot exclude concerns on data security. This is another possible area where Japan and India have a vast potential to work together. Although both governments are cooperating by holding regular cyber dialogues. Lastly, as I have been emphasizing, I firmly believe that Japan-India collaboration could have a positive impact on a world digital economy. And as we all know, FICCI is one of the biggest promoters of the relationship between our two countries. I'm therefore looking forward to an active future role to be played by FICCI in this regard. I'd like to conclude my address by offering all of you my best wishes for your good health and also fruitful discussion during the course of this IoT Summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency. In fact, we would be happy to collaborate and work as partners in realizing this vision of having more and more Japanese investments and presence in Rajasthan. And our next, I would like to invite our chief guest, Mr. T.P. Gupta, Chief Secretary, Government of Rajasthan. And before he starts his address, on behalf of everybody here and all, we would like to compliment and congratulate you, sir, for the way you are fighting this war against Corona. And we are with you in this fight, and we shall definitely win as we move forward. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atul Sharma. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, Ambassador of Japan to India, Excellency Mr. Satoshi Suzuki, Mr. Ashok Kajaria, Mr. Bimal Patwari, Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra, Dr. Rishi Mohan Bhatnagar, Mr. Atul Sharma, Mr. Somesh Gupta, and all the friends present here. I'm really pleased to be with you at this second Rajasthan IoT Summit organized by FICCI. In fact, it is such a welcome change for me after this grueling last 2 months fighting with Corona problem, trying to save lives, everything else took the back seat. So the problem is still not over. It still exists with more than 6,500 cases reported in Rajasthan, 155 deaths, which is the minimum. Doubling rate and death rates are practically the minimum. Testing rate is the highest in the country. But still, out of 6,542, we have to find the silver lining. And only 2,700 active cases remain because most of these people, other than the few deaths, have recovered and gone back home. So the problem is there, but gradually people are actually coming to terms with that. Now we have to learn to live with this problem and put our derailed economy on the track. In fact, I can tell you, I can share this with everybody that Rajasthan was the first state to introduce the concept of lockdown. This was done on 22nd of March, while in Government of India, it was introduced from 25th of March after 3 days. When we introduced it on 22nd, on 23rd, the cabinet secretary asked me to explain the concept of lockdown and how we are going to fight the corona with this concept of lockdown. All the chief secretaries were there in the VC and convinced by our arguments, it was done by them in the entire country from 25th. So Rajasthan led the way here also. But now, as I said, uh, we have to learn to live with this problem and actually don't be of a defeatist mentality. We have to now put the economy on the track. And this summit is an excellent effort to explore the potential of IoT and AI in revolutionizing the businesses post COVID-19 and how IoT and AI can support the futuristic needs of communication, infrastructure, manufacturing, and businesses. The coronavirus disease pandemic has set foot across the world and has impacted the world economy across industries and business setups very adversely. The first case of this pandemic in Rajasthan was actually found on 2nd of March. And the Rajasthan government, as I said, took all the needed steps to enforce state-wise lockdown. And we are working closely with GOI to contain the spread through vigorous and proactive screening and ruthless containment. This was the word which made us famous by the name of Bhilwada model, because in these affected people were found initially in Jaipur and Bhilwada. And in with this policy of ruthless containment, we put curfew, contained the people inside, had proactive screening, and treated the people. That is how it became famous. And the protocol followed by rapidly contain the explosive spread of contagion in district Bhilwada has been globally now acknowledged as the best practice. But I'll move away from the corona side now. Digital technology has been widely used to help limit the spread of coronavirus. Technology is playing crucial role in keeping our society functional in the time of lockdowns and quarantines, and these technologies may have a long-lasting impact beyond COVID-19. In fact, while putting the people in the quarantine, either institutional or in the home quarantine, we are using the technology here. Everybody has been all the quarantined people uh, on their mobiles this Arogya Setu app and Rajasthan COVID application has been put on their mobiles, and if they move outside their houses beyond 300 meters, it gives us a signal, and we immediately warn the local people, and they immediately catch the person who is violating all these norms. IoT is one such technology which will play important role in revolutionizing the businesses post COVID-19. IoT, along with other technologies like cloud and artificial intelligence has proven its great utility during this crisis. Now we will be seeing much more adoption of IoT and AI. Businesses will be scrutinizing every item that affects the bottom line, looking to automate tasks, creating higher operational efficiencies, reducing workforce exposure to infectious environments, and making fast and efficient decisions in times of crisis. IoT enables remote readings of data from areas where human presence might be deemed dangerous. Once remote devices are connected, control becomes as easy as clicking a button on a computer screen. AI will enable better businesses insight through analysis of real-time and historical data. Computer vision on video surveillance cameras is a good example. There will be more adoption of video surveillance for remote monitoring, real-time metadata generated through video analytics, which will enable real-time alerts and the ability to quickly find events for post-event investigation. Robot and drones, IoT wearables, autonomous vehicles are few examples of use of IoT and AI applied together. With the ensuing store closures, supply chain, as the Japanese ambassador was also pointing out, supply chain disruptions and it reduced footfall. The design industry have also been severely hit. This has led many to re-evaluate their methods for manufacturing and designing. IoT and AI will likely be implemented with greater force. The automation industry is now evolving to serve holistic requirement with the integration of lighting, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, audio, video security, and entertainment. Digitization of manufacturing plants, fully or partially, will have helped them produce with limited workforce. Every organization, large or MSME, should use this time as an opportunity to accelerate the adoption of AI, IoT, and analytics to integrate customers, employees, and vendors through digital platforms. Some of the solutions that can help are analytics-led demand prediction and production planning, remote assisted assembly operations through augmented reality, virtual reality, AI-based face tracking solutions to manage access control instead of biometrics. IoT solutions can be of great help in energy management and monitoring machines and workers' health. Monitoring and controlling operations of sustainable urban and rural infrastructures like bridges, railway tracks, and on and offshore wind farms is a key application of the IoT and AI. It can benefit the construction industry by scheduling of repair and maintenance activities in an efficient manner. Even areas like waste management can benefit from automation and optimization. Rajasthan is in fact a state of first when it comes to e-governance. We were the first state in India to start electronic service delivery way back in 2002, and our efforts became the inspiration behind the central government initiating the Common Service Center scheme. On 30th March 2002, e-Mitra project was started with two utility services of electricity and water supply bills. Today, state is having more than 70,000 e-Mitra service delivery kiosks, providing more than 400 utility services, which is the largest service delivery platform of the country. During the lockdown, e-Mitras have been used for registration for interstate transfer of the migrants. It was used for registration of farmers for getting benefits. It is used for registration of destitutes to put money in their accounts. The e-Mitras are extending the reach of government to practically every doorstep in Rajasthan. Command control centers at 29 district headquarters out of 33 districts in the state have been set up for integrated solutions on GPS and CCTV based securities, which have been used for effecting monitoring and strict compliance of lockdown. A startup ecosystem has been developed in the state. Presently, 1839 startups are registered with us, and out of them, 1080 are getting mentorship under iStart policy. Rajasthan government has developed a techno hub and a state data center. This state data center is based on Tier 4 design. This state data center is having 600 racks, which is the highest in the government sector in the country. Our state data center is extremely secured as it is based on blockchain technology. Our vision is to move from doorstep services to services at fingertips. We are taking it up on a mission mode. To restart the economy and take it again on the high growth path, Rajasthan government is working on multifaceted strategy and has initiated necessary actions. Exercise has been started to review rules and regulations where simplification of the procedures is required for financial and non-financial reforms to attract more investment in the state. India, the world's fifth largest economy with an abundant labor force, offers the best alternative in terms of depth and size of markets. We are trying to use our huge labor force in manufacturing by attracting FDI when foreign firms are looking for an alternative manufacturing base. After the corona period, new dimension of manufacturing and software sector will emerge in the world. Americans, Japanese, Korean companies based in China have started looking for new locations to move their manufacturing infrastructure elsewhere. In such a situation, Rajasthan may be a potential destination. In fact, I should inform, taking this opportunity when Excellency is here, we have already requested to the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Embassy of Japan in India in this regard. Excellency, I would like to assure you that best possible concessions and facilities will be provided by the Rajasthan government if Japanese investors establish their businesses in Rajasthan. This is the best time for us to push major economic reforms and take bold decisions to remove obstacles in completion of stalled projects. And I would like to apprise you that results of Rajasthan government's initiative would be seen within next 1 year. I hope that experts in this summit would come with some valuable suggestions to explore the potential of IoT and AI in revolutionizing the businesses post-COVID-19 and how IoT and AI can support the futuristic needs of communication, infrastructure, manufacturing, and businesses. Government of Rajasthan welcomes new ideas and would like to work with various stakeholders to ensure economic security for the people of the state as well as the business community. I once again thank FICCI for providing me an opportunity to share my views and congratulate them for their efforts to host such an event on a very, very relevant topic and hope that this summit would come with a roadmap to achieve its objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And in fact, as mentioned, we would be happy to work in close coordination. We have a Indo-Japan collaboration already going on between at institutional level, and we would like to strengthen it further. Before I invite the next speaker, since you will be leaving, I would request the ambassador his excellency.
I have 10 more minutes, so I'll remain here for 10 minutes. Yes.
So His Excellency for quick comments on what Chief Secretary said, then we will proceed to the next speaker. For your comments, His Excellency.
Well, thank you very much. We are quite looking forward to collaboration with the state of Rajasthan, and Chief Secretary was right in pointing out the need of Japanese companies relocating their production bases. And we hope your state should seize this opportunity to improve the situation. I mean, many Japanese companies are quite keen looking for a good production basis. But if you could address the issues to resolve for the Japanese companies, I think this is a golden opportunity for both of us. Thank you very much.
His Excellency for those comments. And moving further, I would request Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra, Chief Executive Officer of NASSCOM IoT Center of Excellence, for his address.
No, thank you so much. A pleasure to be here and listening to the dignitaries, the Chief Secretary, sir, His Excellency, Mr. Kajaria, Mr. Patwari, and Rishi ji, who's here. So glad to be here. I had a privilege or pleasure of being starting the first Center of Excellence in IoT in way back in, not I wouldn't say way back, about 4 years ago. That was that's the time when world started talking about, India started talking about IoT. And that was a project, in fact, initiative from MeitY, Ministry of Electronics, central government, and the state government partnership. We decided that these are the technologies, IoT, AI, robotics, AR, VR, and so on, the emerging technology, they're all pretty much related. And it was recognized that these technologies will be playing an important role for the development of our industry as well as for the economy as well. So that was the intent. We opened up our first center in Bangalore, and the center was had a charter of basically helping new innovations, enabling new innovations to come up in the country and get them adopted. So we opened up our first lab, which would allow all the startups and the small companies to come and develop their products. And on the one hand, while we were helping the new companies develop their products, we were working closely with the industry to have these products adopted also. So after having run for a year or two, the model became successful, and we became pretty much the hub of activity in Bangalore for these companies. It was decided that we expand these centers into the other part of the country. So we opened up our centers in Gurgaon and in Ahmedabad, and now we're looking to do it in Vizag. So the model has been working quite well overall, as a partnership between center and the state. And what we have done is we have evolved as a platform for all the companies, all the startups across the country to come and get connected, to the industry at large. Because as NASSCOM, we represent the technology industry, right? Technology Industry Association with more than 2,000 technology companies connected to us. And on this platform for IoT, which we had created, we have more than 1,200 startups who are constantly connected to us from all over the country. Then it's not just about the startups who are actually based in our center in Bangalore or Gurgaon or Ahmedabad, but also the startups which are operating from any part of the country would want a platform where they can actually get connected to the rest of the industry also. While innovative ideas are coming from anywhere, there is no license for innovation for anyone, and we see things coming from second-tier cities and third-tier cities as well. But I think what we provide is a channel for them to get connected to some of the organizations that they would need for them to either be visible or get a technology or marketing help they would need for their products. So that is a platform we have created over last 4 years. And what we have done now over the last year and a half, we have picked up some focus areas for us. What are the focus areas that we'll do? And the two focus areas for us are healthcare and manufacturing. Healthcare is one area, which we felt technology can play an important role, where it can do a bridging of the gaps between the large requirement and the supply. So we are working on many technologies. We are basically what you call us as an aggregator of technology. We are pulling in technologies which will be can be deployed at PHCs or the CSCs, as the secretary said, and probably provide the last mile reach to some of those services, whether it is diagnostics or telemedicine or many of those similar things which are evolving. And the second one is on manufacturing. The manufacturing is another area which I think would can use a lot of technology to be more competitive in the global world. So what we are bringing in is a low-cost solutions. Well, low cost is just one part of it, but I will say is what we are doing is bringing in the variety of solutions that are needed in the manufacturing world, whether it is in the quality control or it is in the predictive maintenance or it is in the supply chains. It is pretty much going to be impacting every part of the industry. So we have seen solutions, and I'll just give you a small example. So a company that was making nails, the screws, that was making screws which they may produce in thousands. They had problem in the quality control which they were exporting. So we got them a solution from a startup which was basically used cameras, which would use cameras in the 3-4 locations, and that would inspect the quality of screws, which in a manual inspection would otherwise miss out. So the quality index went much higher, and as a result, their satisfaction by the global customer went higher. You know, this is just a small example of a collaboration. There, I have tens of such examples to talk about. Idea was to just illustrate the kind of collaboration that we are bringing between the industry and the startup world. And I believe in the coming days, you know, some of these things will see a much higher acceptance in the industry, and in the current times has actually reinforced that. I'll also like to mention that collaboration we have had across the borders. We are not limiting ourselves to just collaboration in India, but we have been collaborating with other countries. And to specifically talk about Japan, we had a pleasure of hosting the Minister of METI. METI is Ministry of Electronics and Technology in Japan. We had a pleasure of hosting them, and His Excellency also, the Ambassador Sir, also at our center in Japan. We work closely with JETRO, the organization again based in Bangalore. And we have similar collaboration with other countries also, where, you know, there is a lot of strength in the hardware side in those countries, and we bring a lot of software and analytics skills on our side. So it's a very synergetic relationship, you know, because while the building blocks are few, the applications are in thousands. There are thousands of applications which not a one company can do it. So the role of startups becomes very critical in this, you know. And India has so far done extremely well when it comes to the number of startups in the country. As NASSCOM, we have had the first startup program in the country about 6-7 years ago. And we have now about 3,000 to 4,000 good high-tech, deep-tech startups in the country. I'm not talking about all startups. The number of total startups is much higher. I'm talking about the pure technology deep tech startups, which we deal with, the kind of startups we work with. And their role has become extremely important because each of them is bringing a different, you know, there's no one cookie cutter solution which will satisfy all. So each situation, each use case is different, would require a different solution. And we see that ecosystem growing overall with the help that government is providing, the acceptance that industry has brought in. Industry has become more open to using these solutions. And recognize that, you know, earlier I used to face this question of show me the ROI before I adopt it. And now I see less of these questions. These ROI questions are already understood. So we are going to continue to expand this program further. And I'd like to thank you all for giving this opportunity to share my experiences in this brief time. And we'll continue to work with you while we are the technology people. FICCI brings in the domain expertise. You know, FICCI is the organization which is connected to the companies who would be wanting to use the technologies, and we have had a good partnership with FICCI in Bangalore, in Delhi, and we'll like to continue to build on this. As I said, it's not just technology alone. There is a domain expertise that is needed for these technologies to expand. We had a pleasure of working with Kajaria ji's company also. And we'll continue to grow this, and any advice and input and things from your side will be helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. And in fact, Rajasthan has also a pretty advanced stage of startup ecosystem. So we can find ways to collaborate with that ecosystem, how your center of excellence, or probably going forward, can we have the center of excellence in Rajasthan also? So these are the factors which we can explore, and we will be happy to work in this regard with you and government of Rajasthan.
Sure.
Moving forward, sir, Chief Secretary, sir, you would like to leave, or your mic is mute, sir.
Yeah, now I would like to leave. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your time, sir. Now I would request Dr. Rishi Mohan Bhatnagar, President India of Aeris Communication, for his address on the future is now IoT powering the new normal. Over to you, Mr. Bhatnagar.
Thank you, Atulji, for inviting me, and thank you, FICCI, for inviting me. Honorable Ambassador Sir, Kajaria ji, Patwari ji, and my dear friend Sanjay. I have a small presentation to show. I'll just do the share content if I'll be in a position to do that. It's not an... Yeah. I'm assuming that my presentation is visible. If somebody can say yes.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So it's the second time I really congratulate Rajasthan FICCI Association for the second IoT Summit. I took a topic that the future is now. IoT is empowering. So, it is a new normal. So I'm the president for Aeris Communication, as well as I am the chairperson for IET. This is a 150-year-old institution of UK, which has appointed me as a chairperson for their future technology panel. I'm also chairing a number of other panels on IoT and AI in India. A small input on who we are, because Aeris is not a big organization. We are a $100 million company, a 20-year-old company based in Silicon Valley. Okay. And we are in $100 million revenue, but totally in Internet of Things. We do not do anything else except for IoT. We have approximately 15 million connected devices, and we get approximately 2 billion messages every day from these devices. And we do all kind of analytics and everything on that. We have data centers in India. Around 4 years back in 2016, we arrived in India. And today we are an established player in the IoT space and providing services to many, many customers in India. Just a small, again, sir, we are a joint venture with SoftBank. We are not an investment. We are a joint venture in SoftBank in Japan. And we are doing connected car with Mitsubishi. Okay. And we are a joint venture with Volkswagen in US. Okay. So we are a connected car provider. For Google, we are using for cloud. In India, we use BSNL, Vodafone, and Airtel all as our connectivity providers, and a joint go-to-market with AT&T, BSNL, and CFI. And we have number of technology partners. And if you see the list in the Southeast Asian Indian market, we are with number of manufacturers, number of fleet companies, number of others, the utilities and banking and financial sector. We are providing to different sectors. I honestly, next time I'll create the slide, I'll have a health group on the healthcare sectors in India whom we are providing IoT services. So we are not providing just a platform or a device or a connectivity. We are providing end-to-end managed services solution with platform, connectivity, device, everything together. So what we realized that the country is facing, many of the industrialists are finding it difficult to implement an IoT solution because there are multiple people providing small part of a complete solution. What we did, we have some of our own components. We participated and created the ecosystem of our own and started delivering an end-to-end ecosystem. For the team here, might not be very relevant, but we have a multilingual help desk support, because if a driver is driving in Tamil Nadu, I can't expect them to speak Hindi or English. So my help desk has to provide a multilingual support. We are working with multiple people, and you can see this. I have created, I can continue for hours on this because it's a topic of my interest and I am working on this. But Goenka, Godavari, Kinetic, then Hira Group in Chhattisgarh, and there's so many Indian big companies which are using our services across India for manufacturing, for fleet, for their as an automated auto sector, so on and so forth. I just want to go to the next slide now. Yeah, and I just thought, because the Kajaria ji is here and there are so many FICCIs must be working on number of manufacturing. Okay, I thought of giving this slide, and I take a, I make an announcement here. I am not a manufacturing expert. You know your business better, but I am a technician. I am a technology person. The way I see manufacturing is 4 M's for me: material, machine, manpower, and methods. In the post-COVID era, material, the supply chain management has been impacted. People will now focus to see how they can do domestic supply, or they can have alternative supply, which is an opportunity for a country like us. The quality assurance, because of the scale that has to increase, the quality assurance is a big challenge, and the logistics. We have been able to find solutions on it. since 2017, we started implementing such solutions in India. Paragon is one of the examples, the footwear manufacturer, with whom we implemented, and they found huge amount of operational efficiency and theft reduction improvement in their complete site supply chain management. It's a completely IoT solution. And machines, the scalability has to increase. One of the challenge which I found from many of the industrialists is they say that, I am running a paper industry or a cement factory since so many years, and I don't want to invest in new machines. The thing is, we have been able to create an integrated platform which will be in a position to get data from your existing legacy infrastructure. Not the whole machine needs to be changed. The machine will continue, and we have been able to implement this in number of solutions, number of factories. And honestly, one of the factory moved it to their 10 factories. Okay, so there has been an expansion also. So we have a platform which will be in a position to move from your legacy infrastructure and work on how much data can we extract out of it. The manpower, the third M of manufacturing. The human priorities are changing. Right now, going out of house, my wife says, don't go. Okay, we are not letting our children go to school. And I'm not sure when will I allow, even if the government allow. Okay, moving in a metro train, going in a railways or using, we don't know how the life is going to be. Okay, similarly, while there are a number of companies which has opened IT services companies where I work, allowed people to come to the office, there are very few people who are ready to come to the office. Okay, even if you allow people to come to office, there are not many people coming. That means you need to give confidence to your team for a skilled manpower that the hygiene and standards are already implemented. But this is also an opportunity. If you are able to implement those standards and get your work done through remote workforce or through some robotics, some AI, VR trainings, modules, and so on and so forth, you will be able to utilize an expert sitting in Japan to remotely work and do things for you. And same is automation. So manpower solutions is what we have. We have been able to implement a complete solution for number of manufacturing companies and also for Indian Railways. And we have been able to show lots of results in utilizing remote workforce management solutions and manage the manpower. And the fourth M is methods. People processes, operational processes, business processes, all will get changed. All will require some kind of modifications. We have been able to work with one of the big brands in India to convert their business processes and operational processes into how can we have digital twins, how can we have artificial or virtual intelligence, AR, VR kind of things, and we can run their business. All these solutions we have implemented in India at the cost India can afford. And I'm again repeating, at a cost India can afford. People are sometimes feel that these solutions will be too expensive for anybody to implement, and people resist in investing in this. But I again want to share one of my experience. I used to work for Mahindras. I was heading the digital business for Tech Mahindra for a few years, and Reva car is something which I personally worked on. Okay, with that kind of experience, I could realize that the implementation of new technologies is something which is not easy. Through my Tech Mahindra days and after that in Aeris, I might have done more than 100 of pilots in India into the manufacturing space. Out of those hundreds of pilots, very few got implemented in a complete factory, and I am sharing the number, only one got implemented in multiple factories of an organization. But today I'm getting calls. Okay, today I'm getting calls that how can people can implement it across their organization. People are ready to invest in seeing these kind of things to be implemented, and I'm really very happy. Don't take it wrong, but I'm very happy that COVID has changed the way people think in investment, and people feel that this is now a requirement, not something which they'll like to have, but it has become necessity. I can continue on this, but I just want to share. Sorry, Atalji.
Rishi, on interest of time, I would request you to start summarizing.
Yeah, I'll just complete it in 2 minutes. Similar thing is in the healthcare and the remote patient monitoring. We have multiple solutions. We know everything, how things will be moving into the medical devices, analytics, and how things will move, and how during the COVID-19 situation, remote patient monitoring has helped. Same is the energy sector and how the utility and value chain has improved and how the smart cities can work. So my vision, my experience says that IoT is the future, and there'll be huge amount of business for a company like us, which will be implementing it across India, and the scale will be something which will be huge, huge, and huge. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatnagar. And as you mentioned, going forward, we will see accelerated and increased adoption of technology in manufacturing processes. And now I would request Mr. Somesh Gupta, Chairman of FICCI Rajasthan Subcommittee on IT and ITeS and Delivery Center Head for Infosys Limited for concluding remarks.
Good morning, Atulji. Am I audible?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of FICCI Rajasthan, on behalf of its IT-ITeS committee that I chair, and on my personal behalf, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude, first of all, to Mr. D.B. Gupta, Chief Secretary, Government of Rajasthan. He needs to be congratulated on the way that he has led the state of Rajasthan in the fight against Corona and setting an example across the country. He's provided some great examples in his speech on how IoT and AI can be used for the benefit of the population and the industry. We're sure with leaders like that, we would be able to use this technology in general and IoT in particular to make a greater impact in the lives of people and the economy. Next, I'd like to thank His Excellency Mr. Satoshi Suzuki, Ambassador of India to Japan. His Excellency, thank you for acknowledging the great work that the medical professionals are doing world over. I'm sure use of IoT would go a long way in making their job easier, and hence this summit is very pertinent. I'd like to thank you for describing your bold vision of Society 5.0 and how it'll not only disrupt the set ways of working, it'll help us transcend the current crisis of COVID-19 pandemic and rebuild the world in a better image, the way you have set an example of rebuilding Japan after World War II. Thank you, sir. Next, I'd like to thank Dr. Rishi Mohan Bhatnagar, President, India, Aeris Communication. It's so nice, sir, to learn the great work that your company is doing in the space of IoT. Thank you for making a difference in this field and making us all aware of this. Your 4M model comprising material, machine, manpower, and methods for application of IoT in a cost-effective manner is not only very interesting, it's very relevant as well. I hope the participants of the summit get inspired to apply IoT through this model in their respective areas of scope. Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra, CEO, NASSCOM IoT Center of Excellence. Thank you, sir, so much for being a pioneer of IoT in the country and speaking on the importance of IoT in the current set of emerging technologies. You've indeed created a replicable model, sir, of IoT COEs that can not only facilitate collaboration among different stakeholders and accelerate the adoption of IoT at scale. You've also shown us how startups can be benefited at the same time. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Ashok Kajaria, sir, Chairman, FICCI Rajasthan State Council, and CMD Kajaria Ceramics, sir. Sir, thank you so much for welcoming all the panelists and participants and for emphasizing the importance of information technology and the pride of place that IoT occupies in this space. Bimal Patwari, sir, Chairman, Rajasthan IoT Summit, and CEO of Pinnacle Infotech. Sir, thank you for giving interesting real-life examples of IoT in these difficult times and how the industry in India can not only adopt these examples, it can scale them to billion+ people and make people's lives and livelihoods better the world over. Thank you for giving us a sneak peek of the sessions in the Restore Summit, and hope that this summit accelerates this process of adoption of IoT. Thank you, Atul Sharmaji, Head FICCI Rajasthan State Council. Distinguished speakers for the forthcoming sessions, participating delegates, and our friends from media. Welcome again to this pertinent summit, which will not only accelerate our way out of the current crisis, it will make us more productive and advanced. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our supporters in this endeavor, Kajaria Ceramics, as well as Pinnacle Infotech. I wish all the success to the program and request all the participants to kindly stay with us, and we'll be rejoining with you in the next interesting sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Somesh. Thank you, His Excellency. Thank you for all the speakers. We will resume the next session in another 5 minutes, and the inaugural speakers may kindly log off now. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency. Thank you for all the speakers. Arigato gozaimasu.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Srivastava.
Good morning, Atul. Good morning, Pavlidis. How are you doing?
Good morning.
I think all of us are here without wasting the time, since it's streaming live. We should start with the program. So,
Yes. Excuse me, the share content is deactivated. Is there a reason?
sorry. Yeah.
The share content is deactivated.
Yeah. That will be when your presentation time will come. So with
Excellent.
this,
Thank you very much.
we start with the plenary session 1 on demystifying the potential of IoT and AI. And I would request Mr. Sanjay Srivastava, who is business head of Mahindra World Cities and the director Origins, to now take charge of the session. Over to you, Mr. Srivastava.
So much, Atul. A very bright good morning to everyone. Thanks so much to CII and my fellow panelists for finding and contributing with your valuable time in midst of so much things happening. Also, a big thanks. I believe there is a very good participation, and I hope all our participants are able to see us and hear us well on the YouTube link. So thanks so much to participants for joining us on this weekend. We heard some of very interesting points which came up in the inaugural session. And I think while we heard it, it is also important that we look at ultimately technology is good and technology can be a great enabler. But what I am sure in this post-COVID era, what everyone is looking, whether as from a professional perspective or from a personal perspective, that how will technology be the real enabler for me? How will it add value? And everyone has been speaking that IoT has been all pervasive, and it is only logical because things are all pervasive. And if you combine it with the network which exists, then the IoT will obviously be all pervasive. The second aspect of that, Atul, are you able to hear me and see me clearly?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. The second aspect is that if there is a tremendous amount of data which is getting generated and analytics is available, how do we get insight which helps us with real-time decision making, which helps us in actually delivering value in a professional environment, which helps in actually improving the quality of life for the large set of individuals. And that's where AI comes in. And since the AI as well as IoT is a very broad topic, it can cover anything and everything. So I am delighted to welcome three very eminent panelists who are, as we speak, possibly in three different geographies. So that is the true hallmark of that this technology, it does not matter, but what matters is what we will be able to do with AI and IoT. I've also got a lot of questions which many of you have sent in advance. So what we will do is I'll request each of the panelists to possibly take about 10 to 12 minutes each in sequence to give their perspective, and some of them also want to share the a presentation. So to share their perspective, then after that, I'll then pick up some of the questions which have come in advance. Parallelly, if all the participants, as our panelists share their perspective, if you have any views, if you have any queries, please do send it. Rahul from FICCI is helping us collate it, and we'll try to do best justice to your queries. So that's really the perspective of this session plenary one for the FICCI second IoT Summit. I would first like to invite Mr. Manas Fuloria, who Manas leads Nagaro, which has been one of the earliest movers in this, and they are also part of now a huge global conglomerate Algier Group from Germany, and their clients are spread across the globe. In addition, a personal connect that Nagaro also runs one of their premier services setup which serves global clients out of Rajasthan and Mahindra World City, Jaipur. So welcome back to your virtual home, Manas. And Manas will be talking about giving his perspective on connected healthcare, smart cities and smart buildings, and immersive collaborative experience. And hopefully all of that can help us contactless. Over to you, Manas.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. It'll be great if you could enable the screen sharing, or Atul could, or Rahul could enable the screen sharing, shared content.
Sure. Yeah. Atul or Rahul, can you just please enable that?
It's enabled. So hello to everyone to this extraordinary session being conducted with a global set of speakers and to a large audience. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how IoT is changing in the world of COVID, and I will just share my content. Just give me 1 second. Can you see my screen? Okay. So, just like any other disruption, you are going to see certain technologies and certain behaviors scale up with this COVID crisis. And it's an opportunity as much as a crisis for us to change the ways we do work, right? And that's kind of the lens with which I'm looking at this. I'm sure you've heard other speakers talk a lot about IoT in this context. I would like to use the lens of change, dramatic change, which COVID is forcing on us. IoT, as Sanjay referred to, is very scalable. It's remote, and this sort of scalable remote solutions are the need of the hour when we talk of the COVID pandemic. So I will talk about three specific areas where it's making a big impact and has a chance to upend and disrupt traditional behaviors. The first is health at a distance, right? Many of you may be having the Arogya Setu app or other contact tracing apps on your phones, and that's a form of IoT. It's not requiring you to do anything on the device. It's just tracking who you're interacting with and using Bluetooth or geofencing or geotagging. This technology is being used to trace our contacts and to quarantine us where required. And in that sense, it's almost like it's some sort of Internet of Things. It's a bit like Internet of Human Bodies, if you will, tracing how we are moving and what we are doing, etc., with the attendant privacy concerns. But this is a whole new thing, right? It's a whole new thing, and we had never thought of using this for the flu or something like that. But suddenly, it's a big deal, and we're going to use this, and it's kind of routine in some countries, even more than others. It's being taken very, very seriously. If I hear that if you land at Hong Kong airport, you're sort of monitored and tracked as you move out of the airport, and so on. So this is a big change, right? Another change is telemedicine. I mean, we have always had some level of telemedicine. There have been regulatory hurdles, there have been lots of challenges, but suddenly the number of telemedicine visits, some of the data I was seeing, have gone up like 20-fold, 30-fold. So all of a sudden, we are getting used to not going to the doctor face to face to have a conversation. And this can lead to a whole spread of distributed kiosk type models of medicine. Rafi, also on the panel, is going to talk about the health aspects of IoT. So I won't spend very much time on it. But if you just reimagine, right? I mean, given the fact that you can no longer, or at least in many places, you can't go to your doctor today, how everything is going to change or could change in the future. There's regulatory issues that need to be sorted out, but I think this will give an impetus to the sorting out of those issues. And then, if somebody is unwell, how do you connect the medical devices? How do you monitor the people's health without, at scale, thousands and thousands of people who are ill, but without actual contact or with minimal contact? And connected devices also extends into, for example, testing. When you're testing people for COVID, just trying to make sure that you're not losing time carrying this data from place to place, etc. So this is also, I mean, we also work in this area with some large clients, and so this whole thing is health at a distance is a key theme of the COVID impact of IoT. And here, literally, the sky is the limit in terms of what we can imagine, because medicine has been traditionally very slow moving in terms of adopting these game-changing ideas. Now, if we move out of medicine into the whole idea of buildings and cities, imagine today, your whole access control to your offices is going to change, right? You want to have touchless access control. You want to make sure that people are not, standing too close to each other in the office, right? So cameras that are taking care of that, or people are wearing masks, or whatever the latest SOP is for distancing. In hotels, I had one of the largest travel portals in India looking to see how they can equip hotels with contactless locks. So there are lots of these opportunities. You don't want to hold a key card in your hand anymore, right? You don't want to hold, of course, not a key, but you want to just get as contactless as possible. In airports, we here in Delhi airport, probably boarding passes are not going to be used anymore, right? or they're going to be used in different ways with minimum touching, right? So I think this whole touchless everything is a big deal and will really change the way our buildings work, or a huge opportunity for IoT. Similarly, remote policing, right, and enforcement, maintenance, the public efforts are also going to change. The Indian government made some temporary concessions in the drone policy so that drones could be used for policing. You can imagine announcements on smart poles, with speakers on smart poles around the city where crowds are gathering, for example. Yeah, all kinds of different, even for example, drones were used to spray disinfectant, which may or may not be a great idea. But the whole use of technology to, again, scale and remotely, this is becoming more and more common, right? And of course, all this data, the best cities, the best countries have these command centers where all the data flows up, and complicated decisions can be taken, in a systematic, synthesized way. And one can imagine this future where all this data is being used to build great, safe and more efficient cities and buildings. But perhaps the greatest impact has been in our ways of life. I mean, the fact that we are actually having this conversation here, suddenly, we are doing this on a very inexpensive setup with inexpensive bandwidth and inexpensive multi-purpose tools. But one can imagine if this is the way we're going to actually have all conferences, we really want to invest in making them deeper and richer. And the same thing, today the children are studying in school online or taking the guitar classes online, or they are playing Fortnite online, or they're immersing themselves in these experiences, which are really, we're investing a lot of money, and we will keep investing more and more money to make these experiences better and better, and maybe more focused and specific for different kinds of, if you want to exercise with a friend, that's a different application. I have a friend who has a bicycle which is linked to the net, and he uses it for his workout, and so on. So more focused expenditures and investments for better experiences in different of different types. But also, if you think about sales, for example, sales has always been a very face-to-face kind of thing. How do you sell? So we were just thinking, for example, maybe we should ship a HoloLens or something to our clients so that when we talk with them, or potential clients even, so when we talk with them, it can be more collaborative, right? Or more really immersive. So these things are also going to increase the use of IoT. Similarly, connected workers. You have people starting up factories that have lain shut for a long time. There were issues of safety, etc., issues of scale. Can you have the worker being guided by an expert, and so on? So connected workers again is something which takes off, and connected appliances. We don't want in our homes. I don't know about you all, but at least in our home, most of the food and supplies have been delivered to our home. So this has new questions about, do you have lockers that can be used more safely? Can you automate the ordering of this food with your smart refrigerator or something like that? Can you automate the you don't want to let someone into your house to cook or to clean, or to, you want to just manage as much as possible with appliances. And this is again opening a new area. It's early days, but I think the whole mindset is changing. The home is much more a place where you spend time, and you're going to try to make it as efficient and up to date as possible. So, just as a last slide, I talked about healthcare, I talked about smart buildings, smart cities. I talked about the habits that are changing in our homes, at the workplace, etc., and the experiences that that COVID has suddenly shifted for us, right? And suddenly we are having to look at a world where our daily experience is very different, like this conversation we are having. Now, to really take advantage of that, we need a few things to happen. We need regulation to be favorable. For example, for telemedicine, right? We need the rules to now reflect this whole new way of working. Even the rules around, what is a workplace anymore, right? This changes, right? So all of this to let this IoT get some impetus, this regulation needs to be taken care of. we need support to startups. For example, grant challenges that the government can set out. It can say, hey, these are the problems I have. I'm going to fund some startups that are going to attack these challenges. I think that's a great way to build this sort of engineering-minded, technical-minded, innovative ecosystem. Rafi's from Israel, and that's the kind of thing which I think Israel has done fantastically. It'll be also great to hear his thinking about it, and the industry itself, right? I think in India we have the mindset to throw people at a problem, right? Because the people labor is so cheap. But I think the audacity to actually throw technology at these problems and to try to shift into this whole new world would be a key aspect of the modernization of India. So to be willing to work on new ideas and with startups and in new areas with new tech. And even if we fail sometimes, it's okay. Most of us can afford to fail in small experiments. We just need to be audacious enough to experiment more. So Sanjay, that's what I had. Over to you again. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Manas. I think you brought a very important aspect about how to bring all of this together in various things. And it's a dynamic world, hence we have to change. Like one of the points I would like to highlight is FICCI has been one of the vanguards in getting this going for a long time. And I think at the start I possibly misspelled FICCI, so my apologies to all. This is the good thing is I got a feedback even before the session was over, so I had an opportunity to correct it. I think that's the speed at which we'll work on. So bringing from while Manas covered the aspects and talked about many of the things are happening as we are some of the best hospitals, because they are the hot centers for potential COVID, are actually encouraging increasingly people to say, please use telemedicine. Every societies, I'm sure, is recommending please use contactless ordering. So all of this is happening here and now. So while technology is good, it is also then now important to see how can this help with a very important segment of our world, which is the elderly care. And that's where we invite Rafi Zak, who leads EcoCare and is amongst the world's most innovative thought and solution providers on elderly care, to share his views on what are the technologies which are emerging and how we can use this to make a better world and better planet. Over to you, Rafi.
Hi, good morning, Sanjeev. Thank you very much for inviting me for this panel. Can you hear me well, by the way?
We can hear you, see you well.
Okay, I just need to share. Okay, and I think that I hope it will be shared in a moment. So, okay, can you see the slide deck?
It may just take a few seconds. It's saying it's starting to share content, but we are not seeing the content.
Okay, so I hope it will come in a moment. It's a long distance. So can you see that now?
Yes. Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. So EcoCare is dealing with elderly care, and I would like to give some insight about how we integrate the IoT and AI capabilities into the elderly care arena. And of course, I will put some points about the COVID-19 regarding issues. So, as we all know, we live longer, means the elderly population is continuously increasing, and they would like to live independently at their home environment. what makes it a bigger challenge, because we are not really aware about their health deterioration, what makes it even a bigger risk for distress at their apartment, at their home, at their private environment. And on top of this, the COVID-19 arrives into our world, where our seniors need to be quarantined, means isolated without any visitors. So I would like to go through a very well-known example and the major issue of elderly that lives by themselves, and this is the elderly falls. And I'm going to go through that and try to show how the IoT and AI can contribute to avoid that. So a few words about the elderly falls. As you may know, according to the World Health Organization, about 40% of the elderly people, elderly means 65 plus, fall at least once a year, and 10% out of those falls considered as an acute fall, means required an immediate hospitalization because something is either broken or dramatic issues happen there. You know, in terms of the government, it's a big cost, an yearly cost. For instance, in the US, to get to $50 billion, the annual cost for that. In Japan is 700 billion yen. And according to the CDC, in 2030, there will be 7 fall deaths every single hour, which means it's a really a big issue. When we are considering about the fall itself, means we need to imagine how the human brain understands that there is a fall. Means, let's assume that this person is getting into the living room and fall down. How we really decided that he fall down, an acute fall, and now he needs an immediate help? This is a key question. I will get to that in a moment with a solution. So there are various solutions in market. All of them are really valid. But when it comes to the home environment, to the private home, and when we are talking about elderly people, then they wouldn't like to use any wearable device. Means they are not really committed to wear a device for 24/7. It's a really issue because they need to charge this unit every few days. They need to commit to wear it even during bedtime and during bath time. So it's a major issue. And the other type of technology is based on it's a non-wearable, but it's based on, let's say, privacy invasive solutions, such a camera. Even it's not taking out of the apartment. Once person see a lens in the bathroom, it's not so easy for him to accept such a technology. So we should think about other solution combining a non-wearable solution, a non-privacy invasive solution that can lead us into what's called IoT and AI-based solution. And here comes EcoCare, where we developed a radar-based solution, which automatically and continuously tracking the person at his apartment, even through the walls. So it's not non-wearable, doesn't need to wear any device, and it's not a privacy invasive because we don't really take any privacy, real privacy, from the person while tracking and monitoring the person. So this is the device. You can see it's one of the ceiling facilities that we installed the unit. So the device is installed in the apartment ceiling. You can see it in this is senior apartment, and cover nominal senior apartment, about 45 square meter. Even it's through the wall. Means in this example, you can see that the device can understand where the person is located, even it's in the closed door in the bathroom. So what is the key idea behind our solution is the following. So when we consider what we need to bring into this AI capability, we should think about what we really need to provide in order to let a machine understand that something is wrong, okay, even short-term and long-term. So in our case, the system continuously monitor 4 essential body indicators. The first indication is where the person is located in the environment. Means is he on the bed or on the bathroom, on the toilet side of the bathroom, etc. And then the posture, whether he's standing, laying on the bed, laying on the floor, or sitting. The third indication is the motion profile, means static, walking, falling down as an event, or sitting. So various types of motion segments. And the last but not the least is the respiration. So we call it a human state. And this human state is generated every few seconds. So we have a radar. So the system structure is the following. We have a radar, and followed by the body indication instruction, which is to generate the human state, which is, let's call it the pre-AI engine. And then it goes to, we call it a cognitive situation analysis, which is based on the machine learning and AI capabilities that determines whether something happened. So let's get back, and everything's go to the cloud to dashboard. We will get to that. So let's get back to this example. So this time we have the unit which is installed in the apartment. It transmits a very low power signal into the home environment and gets back the reflected signal. So let's take the example of that person that is walking into the living room and falling down. This time, the system generates the stream of human states. It's continuously done. So it indicates that the person in the previous human state was walking into the living room, and now is falling down and lying on the floor. And afterwards, keep lying on the floor and start having a hyperventilating because it's getting into a distress. So this stream gets to the AI engine that determines that according to that stream, according to the probability of such an event, there is an acute fault and the alert is sent to the operator. So here we show how we connected the sensing capability, which is a non-invariable, non-privacy invasive, with the AI capabilities. The system, generally speaking, provides various levels of reports, all of them based on the same concept. The highest level of report is emergency situation. As we discussed, we have the acute fault, but also drowning in the bathtub. That was a major problem in Japan, where we are very highly active there. And we can show some small video if you have some time. Respiration distress, which is definitely connected to COVID-19. As you know, this is a respiratory syndrome related, like SARS family. And abnormal situation, various abnormalities that might happen with a senior that it's very red flag before something happened. If we discuss about the fault events, so repetitive moderate faults, which are very light faults, but it's happened during the last time in repetitive mode, means several times, then which is the very red fault before the acute fault, means the acute fault just behind the corner. And the last but not the least is the capability to monitor the person's daily activity in order to determine whether potentially any health deterioration. So this is a part that is highly important because today all the medical world goes from the acute care to the preventive care. So this time the ADL activity of daily living is monitoring 3 items: the person's physical activity, the home usage, means when it spent the time at any location, home location, and for how long, and how many times it transient from one place to another. And the last is the gait analysis. It means the walking profile. How much is the person walks daily, what is the average walking speed, and etc. And this is actually the machine learning part, which the system learns day by day and both information lets the system the capability to determine whether something happened, like any special deviation from the normal activity. Means let's assume that the person is very active, spend of the time, daily time in various locations, in the kitchen, living room, and the current bounce is very passive, most of the time in the bed, almost no walking, and etc. So of course the system immediately learned that something happened and sent an alert to the caregiver. So our system is connected to the cloud where we can provide some more services to the operators, such as dashboard, connectivity to. Yes,
Rafi, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can all of us just get your key points maybe in the next couple of minutes in the interest of time, please?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So actually we have this dashboard. I will skip, but I would like to give some words about the COVID-19. So as you can see, the system can accurately, remotely reconstruct the respiration waveform, where it's become a key issue with several perspectives. One, we could find out that the medical staff at the hospital is infected by the COVID-19 when they met the visitors, the potential patients. So we provided a solution where the staff doesn't meet the person before taking some key measurements like the body temperature, the respiration, and the heart rate. And then we make a decision whether to meet the person. And of course, another item is for the moderate COVID-19 patient is continuously monitor their respiration in order to determine whether they get into the severe. So this is, once again, avoid the nurses and the medical staff to get into the patient room every several minutes or every hour. So here we can show that we installed such a unit in one of the Israeli hospitals. You can see the various respiration waveform with the situation that they can monitor and make a decision. Oops, sorry, something happened. And we have here some, I will need to skip it, a small video because lack of time. But our market is mainly the remote home care operators, the senior living facilities, and hospitals. And our vision is really to provide, to increase the quality of care for our elderly and to become more preventive care, means to avoid getting into the acute situation while they live by themselves. So thank you very much, and sorry if I missed some time.
Thanks so much, Rafi. No, this is really helpful, and as you know that even pandemic has, while it has shown the kind of dedication our healthcare workers are doing, it is really creditable and it is recognized across the globe. But it has also shown all of us that prevention is the best strategy. And if we can really use technology, and more importantly for large geographies, whether it is a China or a India or a Brazil or a US, if you are able to ensure technology at scale which does prevention and a proactive action taking, I think it will help save the global healthcare system, especially today it's this pandemic, tomorrow there may be another situation. So really appreciate your views. Coming to that, we heard some of the applications where AI and IoT can come in and how can enable. Another very important aspect that ultimately there is a lot of physical work which has to happen. So construction, things like manufacturing. And it is important to also look at it that if we have to do a good job of the economic growth, then we also need to move to there. So that's where we bring in our next panelist, which is Mr. Konstantinos Pavlidis. He works with Pinnacle Infotech, which is one of the global leaders in BIM technology. And Pavlidis will share his perspective on the reality AI in design development and actually IoT in FM and other scenarios. Over to you, Konstantinos.
Good morning and thank you. Thank you, everybody. I hope everybody is safe and is keeping well.
Yes, we are. Yeah, Konstantinos, we can't see you. We can hear you.
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, now you can see me, I believe. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Good morning. Anyhow, it's not important to see me. I would prefer to present something in starting now. Is it okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I will share my screen. I don't know if you can see.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So my name, as you said before, it's Pavlidis Konstantinos. I'm an architect engineer by trade, and I am the regional BIM director of Pinnacle Infotech in Dubai. So I'm calling you from Dubai. Today we will discuss how the impact of IoT and AI in construction with some examples from the industry. We will focus in the existing conditions capture, artificial intelligence in design, and the meaning of digital twin and IoT in operations, and how it's involved with IoT. The life cycle, I believe all of us, we are accounted with the life cycle of the buildings and infrastructure, starting from the capture of the existing situation on site or in an existing building, then proceeding with the design, the documentation, fabrication, planning the activities to be constructed, construction itself, and then following up with operations. So as said, we will start with existing conditions, design and operation from the life cycle of the building. Existing conditions capture or reality capture is a non-contact, non-destructive technology that digitally captures the physical dimensions, types, sizes of the assets and translate them in the digital 3D representation in the model environment. It has 3 steps basically: the capturing of the data, the processing of the data, and then the production of the actual 3D model. This can be done with different technologies as laser scanning, photogrammetry, or 3D 60 imagery, and with different vehicles or static laser scanners, mobile scanners, even today with robots. All devices are obviously interconnected and they allow collaboration. They're highly productive. We can achieve for linear assets, for example, as roads, 20 kilometers of data collection in 8 hours. For vertical assets like buildings, we can achieve 8,000 square meters accordingly in 8 hours with a very big precision accuracy of plus or minus 1 millimeter. This, it's evident that it gives a very high productive output, time effective, cost effective, and so on, which is very important because it's easy to reconstruct, allows collaboration. We don't have to have a physical interaction with the assets, and we can easily use the data after actually collecting them because all data are available. The next step is the introduction of the artificial intelligence in this procedure, where with automation and artificial intelligence, we can reduce the modeling, the production of the 3D model after receiving the data from 15 weeks, for example, to 4. So we see a 40% increase of the accuracy of the models produced. Moving on to the digital development and design. The artificial intelligence in design does not aims to enhance the process. by coding the design decisions. And its goal is not really to document the final result, but rather the steps required to create this result. With the current situations that we have and the challenges in the world in regards to either pandemics or the population increase, AI has the potential to make the difference between a dystopian future and the actual livable future. The construction organizations have understood that they have a big increase in their quality by the use of AI in design and also in the productivity, accordingly 20 and 25%. The artificial intelligence gives us the chance to explore multiple and generate hundreds of options based in rules, evaluate these options based in specific criteria, and automate repetitive tasks. This, for example, had an impact in a design of a simple store that would take an architect approximately 4 hours to design it. In 15 minutes with artificial intelligence, he could produce approximately 15 different options of design. Now, as such, the professionals can spend less time in tedious, repetitive asset jobs and focus their expertise to a more complex design challenges. Also, it gives the ability to the designer to actually test what his design is actually doing by the availability of simulations that can be used to evaluate the options designed. For example, now we can see a crowd control simulation with the relevant application. Moving forward to the digital twin. The digital twin refers to the digital replica of the physical assets, processes, and systems that can be used for various purposes. It is important to understand that the digital twin is not just, I hope everybody is now acquainted with a BIM model or a 3D model. It's not just a 3D model, but it's the combination and the integration of the data, the 3D model, the people, and the processes in order to assist the asset management, enable the asset management and facility management by systematic and coordinated activity and practice in order to achieve the operational strategic goals of the organization. As said, the fundamental starting point to achieve this is the data. As such, it is important to collect in a managed way the data. And with the abilities we have now with the different applications, sensors, BIM, we can collect all data, we can collect schematics, designs, and models, interconnect them, and allow us to make decisions based on correct analysis, either predictive or prescriptive. The more data we control and we collect, by centralizing the facility management of multiple facilities, will allow us to have a more accurate data analysis and to understand what the future will bring for this facility. So the digital twin brings a transparency and efficiency to the operations, allows us, as said, to do analytics for the future. These, as you can see in the screen, are different examples of cases actually implemented currently in the world and also by our organization. Also, the digital twin allows for virtual scenario simulation in addition to the previous examples, that without the physical interaction with the facility, we can simulate different scenarios and foresee, plan the reactive measures that have to be taken in order to ensure the operation of the facility. This is an overview of some of the aspects that the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence contribute to the construction industry. Of course, it touches all across the construction industry and not only limited to the examples that were presented today. Thank you very much. I hope this was informative.
Thanks so much, Pavlidis. No, this was really useful. So we really appreciate your views on that. In fact, as we are speaking, I think all the perspectives shared by all three of you are actually getting a lot of activity and pointers from our participants. So I'll straight away dive into some of that. One of the, and as we have looked at it, there are some common themes which are emerging. So I'll just request participants' patience and trying to combine some of those questions in order to try to have maximum coverage. I think one of the first things which we are hearing is, and Manas, maybe we need your perspective on that, is from an India perspective, what are the sectors where you see the IoT adaptation at a faster pace compared to others, and how will you see the balance between using automation and technology and at the same time also ensuring that the employment is protected? Can we have your views on that, please?
Yes, I think we are seeing the earliest use of IoT, and I don't have the access to any study on this topic, but I think the smart cities projects are really the first ones where you're seeing widespread use of IoTs. I mean, for example, I'm in Gurgaon, and every traffic light has cameras and speed sensors, and there's a city command module, etc. So I think that's one area. But also, again, buildings, etc. Now you have more and more IoT devices in controlling lights, energy savings. So you're seeing some of these, and at the consumer level, we don't see so much except whatever your phone enables. But I think at the city level and at the where there is some budget to spend some money and buy solutions from around the world, I think we are seeing that. Now the question of unemployment versus technology. I mean, this is an age-old question. I think the way, at least what the thing which I subscribe to is that we need to find ways to move to newer and newer technology and carry as many people as possible through and invest in bringing people up to the level that they are able to participate in this new world. So one could say, for example, why do you invest in a smartphone technology? Why should India have 3G, 4G, now 5G? But you see that over time, people are all adopting it, and even people who are maybe disadvantaged, etc., are able to use it to improve their lives. So I don't think you can say or should say that technology should be postponed, but I think a lot of investment has to go into making sure that we are able to carry everyone with us. And that's, I think, a place where the government has to play a bigger role.
Sure. And the computers were coming, people were thinking that there will be no jobs, but I think it's changed it. And same way, once the 4G has come in and the all-pervasive internet is there, the kind of gig economy has come up, and it generated so many actual jobs of a different nature. It's been very different. So I think every revolution brings with it significant opportunities, and we have to focus on the opportunities. Absolutely agree with you. A second recurring theme coming from the participants, I think it connected very closely with what Rafi was talking of. Two questions, one tactical and one strategic, Rafi. One is, how do we ensure in the short term there is a effective tracing of especially for fast tracking and isolation while taking care of privacy issues. And a strategic question is, can we really see how does this IoT can help for healthcare at a scale, as I alluded to that. Can I have
Okay,
your views?
so yeah, of course. So maybe I will start with the second one, second question. Okay. Um, so as we talked about the preventive care, we believe that by providing vital data back to the EHR, to the electronic health records, that will enable a much more close loop between the treatment and the treated person. For instance, let's assume that a medical doctor provides a new medication to the person, but he doesn't know how it's really influenced. He will ask questions, but most of the answer coming from the, especially from seniors, will be very subjective one and are not really covered properly. So by providing IoT with AI, we can provide much more objective vital data 24/7 that will be generated and provide some vital reports to the doctor to know whether the treatment is during the person living at this apartment works well. Whether there is any unexpected weakness that generated with the treatment and something like that. So, but once again, the preventive care, especially in senior people, are highly important because from the medical perspective, once the person starts having a health deterioration, for the best case, we can stop it. The model says we will not take it backwards. So as soon as we can indicate such a potential health deterioration, this is the best thing. Looking forward, talking about dementia, we already see that in the future we will be able to stop that or to revert that in the case that we indicate that in very early stage, what's called in the early MCI, mild cognitive impairment. So this is highly important. This is about answering the second question. About COVID-19, at the short term, what we could see is the supporting a very fast, practical way to monitor the person respiratory system. Because as we discussed, COVID-19 is what's called ARDS, is acute respiratory distress syndrome, means the respiratory system failure. And here we highly needed to provide some immediate way to measure the respiratory waveform in order to determine whether there is any additional deterioration with the status. So this is what we currently doing with several hospitals here in Israel.
Sure. Thanks for that, Rafi. The third theme came in, it coincidentally gelled with our third panelist, which is increasingly our offline and online world are merging and are merging rapidly. So there are a few questions which are coming in. How will we ensure that the infrastructure is constructed with absolute safety, while at the same time the best-in-class technology is used to handle things remotely or virtually through the BIM. So Pavlidis, would you like to take this, that how can we have the seamless merge for actual physical progress of the work?
Yes, actually, we have to understand, as said before, that the data is the basis. And also for the use of artificial intelligence, we have to understand that for intelligence, the basic is language, speech. If we could translate this to the actual data management, we have to understand that we have to create a common language for the applications to talk to each other. This has been addressed in the recent year by different standards, uniformat, master format, and so on, but still there are many differences between either different schools, countries, regions, and so on. So in order to create a seamless environment for the systems, the applications, the designs, and the B models to integrate is to create the language so the artificial intelligence can start speaking. This is my view on the subject as the point. Now in collaboration, all entities, because we had this as experiences with multiple, because we coordinate and we consult clients that are in the governmental sectors, there are boundaries in the use of the cloud. So it's also not only in regards to policy, but also to the education of the people to feel secure to use cloud services. Because you cannot achieve a full integration of systems if you don't allow for cloud collaboration. I thought that answers some of the questions.
Yes, at least I'm sure it does, and possibly it is good that it also gives reflection for our participants to think of more aspects. That's perfectly fine. Uh, uh, as we are speaking about it, I think one common theme which all of you talked of, if I just step back and see, it is about AI, IoT really going mainstream and AI, IoT actually becoming center to the business. So from that perspective, one of the queries is coming in is, and I think Manas, it's a India-centric, so I'll request you to step in, is it that when this technology is implemented at scale and for specific applications, the kind of skill set which will be required will be very different than just a digital skill set. So what is your view, our participants would want to know, is in terms of creating a center of excellence or a skill development to create different application-led trainings for AI and IoT?
That's an excellent point, that the skill sets that we need today are different from what we needed in the past. NASSCOM has been offering different trainings, etc. I'm part of this effort at Plaksha University, and our first offering, in fact, is on AI and ML. The whole idea is that this has the potential to completely change everything we do. I mean, I think if you talk about education, you talk about eating at a restaurant, you talk about watching entertainment, you talk of, I mean, every aspect of your experience will be likely influenced by AI and ML. You know, in the old world, a couple of 100 years ago, people would find it very strange to believe that a pen would be made by a machine, or a table would be made by a machine, or you know, the walls would be made by a machine. But today, everything is made by machines. In the same way, you know, I think we will be very surprised 20 years later to look back and say, ah, these decisions were taken by human beings. It will mostly be, you know, a lot of it will be done by machines. So there are different parts of it. One part is how do you actually work on the underlying technology. You take it forward. For that, you need deep research and you know, a different level of capability. The other is how do you apply it? And you know, Google and the other players in this space are making it really easy for people to apply this technology. And so there, in one place, you know, your strength has to be deep understanding, understanding the maths and the neural networks and all of that. On the other side, it has to be about application and looking for sources of application and making solutions that bring together hardware, like Rafi's solution, EcoCare. It brings together the hardware, the healthcare issue, the AI ML aspect, and make something really useful for society, right? So I think that kind of solutioning capability is the other side. And I think universities are and industry bodies like FICCI, just the fact that we're having this conference are aware of that, and they're working on that to help disseminate this better.
Sure. Thanks, Manas. No, that's exactly how it is on. In fact, I recall among the first national premier bodies which has also come up with a roadmap and a white paper on IoT as a strategy for the country. If some of you have not seen it, I would advise and request, please do have a look. Many of these aspects, including a long-term roadmap, is there. Another aspect which is coming common and possibly is the success of any technology, any production to go scale is to do it efficiently and at the right cost. So some of these technologies, while it is being implemented, we are also seeing that the cost is a possible issue. So an interesting question which is coming up is, what is the view of the panelists of how they are seeing the governments across the globe taking any measures to ensure they incentivize or lead to greater proliferation of the IoT? Maybe we can just have a quick 30-second view of 3 geographies, 3 panelists. So, Pavlidis, would you like to answer, or Rafi, would you like to answer it? Any one of you?
Yes, please. I will follow.
It's okay, because in Dubai, all these it's not futuristic actually, it's everyday technologies are highly supported by the local government. So we have smart cities developments in Dubai. You can do everything, almost everything from your phone. Different applications and startups are also encouraged. So government-wise, Dubai, I think it's one of the first countries that promotes the use of IoT and immersive technologies. In Greece, the situation is similar, but it's more in the private sector than in the governmental and in the adoption of the technologies in the governmental sectors. Thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Okay.
We always hold Israel in highest regard for cutting edge technology and implementation. So we'd love to hear your view on this.
Yes, I think it's a very important issue when you mentioned the cost ballpark, especially in our arena. When we started, and my previous background coming from consumer electronics, so it's a very sensitive issue in order to bring a solution, to not only technology, to bring a sustainable solution into market. It should be in the proper pricing ballpark. And this, here comes a real challenge, especially when we're talking about IoT and AI, because you need the computation capabilities. And then from day one, you should bear in mind that it should, system-wise, architecture-wise, it should get into the proper ballpark. So, of course, this is a part of a challenge, not only algorithms and technology, but also how we can do that in a low price. That was definitely one of our challenge. And here, when thinking about AI, is majorly using a cloud processing capability, which is, let's say, unlimited, etc. In our case, it's not valid. And the reason, because we're talking about emergency system, personal emergency response system, that requires that most of the processing, I would call it, should be done locally to avoid the case that in case that there is any interruption or our device to cloud disconnection, the system can keep analyzing and postpone its report in case something happens. But if you have only sensor and you build or considering using unlimited capabilities on the cloud, then you might lose most of the information, raw data, and then you cannot process that. So all the partitioning, what is going into the cloud and what is done locally is a key issue. And I think, and I hope that we could solve it in order to bring it into the proper pricing profile. I hope I could answer that question.
Very elaborately. Thanks for that. Manas, you will be hearing this from your global clients across the globe. It will be very insightful to hear your views.
I think every country has different levels of incentivization. I think in India, as I mentioned, the smart city program, etc., have had a bunch of emphasis and funding. But I think in India, we still find that a lot of the technology is imported. So the smart city cameras, etc., that Gurgaon is using, for example, are imported from Japan, as far as I know, and you see a lot of Chinese imports, etc. So I think that the ecosystem to allow for innovation, and again, as we talked of solutioning, which has hardware, software, and other components all stitched together, this requires a change at the university level, and our universities are more or less defined and run in a way which is more about how much land they have and what courses they can. There's a lot of regulation, but it's not so much in terms of an injection of R&D kind of mindsets in the universities. So I think a lot more, I mean, again, India is improving gradually. But if you look at China, for example, when it decides to go after technology, it really puts it out through hundreds of universities and builds it up to a next level. And Israel is a good example as well. And Dubai, you've seen how the government has taken very good decisions to drive the future of the country. I think India also will gradually need to get to that, right? And we're getting better every year, but I think this, not just IoT, but just building the ecosystem where there is enough local innovation to bring the prices down and local volumes to bring the prices down. I think we have yet to see that.
Thanks. No, useful, very useful. Yeah. In fact, there are more questions coming in, but in the interest of time, I've already got a ping from the organizers. So if on behalf of all my panelists, first and foremost, on behalf of FICCI and all the participants, thanks so much for your time. As I heard your valuable perspective, and if I step back and see what I gained from this session, I think there are 2 or 3 things which I really see as the overarching theme. One is that increasingly digital or AI and IoT is going mainstream. Hence, we need to start actually applying and more industries need to think that how this can be used as a business enabler. We saw various applications. The second important thing which I heard was there are a lot of possibilities, and just like any other technology disruption, instead of resisting, we have to actually, this is a unique opportunity for us to use this COVID pandemic as a challenge to really revamp, because we go and we adapt, push the technology adoption ASAP, there will be a huge set of new opportunities coming up, and it will definitely drive economic growth and demand generation, which is the need of the hour of every single individual. More demand, more economic growth will definitely lead to livelihood. And look across all of this, I think one very simple thing which I really see, earlier all of us were thinking that digital or technology is an enabler, but I will be audacious enough to now say digital is business or business is digital. So maybe I think all of us will together strive to ensure that we leverage all of this, take care of the privacy, and ensure we use this in a smart and responsible manner to maybe create a better and a healthier and a safer planet for all of us. So thanks so much for joining in. Thanks for all the participants who are logged in. I think there is a follow-up plenary session 2 which is there. So please do stay logged in. Thanks so much to FICCI and all the supporters. We have stuck right to the time. Over to you, Atul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Atul, you are on mute. We can't hear you.
Oh, now it's audible, no? Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for wonderful moderation. And I would request thanks all the speakers of session 1, and now they can log out. And the session, speakers from session 2 to remain logged in. We will start the session immediately. And we have Mr. Ajay Data, who is the chairman of FICCI Rajasthan Subcommittee on Entrepreneurship and founder and CEO of Data Engineers Global Limited, who is the chairman for the next session. So thank you to all the speakers of session 1. They can log out, and I would request Mr. Data to take over for the next session.
Thank you. Goodbye. Stay healthy.
Goodbye. Stay safe. Over to you, Ajay. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Sanjay. Wonderful session. I was hearing fully, and well done with all the moderators. I am hearing since beginning, since morning 10 a.m. This is a wonderful initiative by FICCI, which they always does great. Atul and Rahul leave no stone unturned to bring us all here, keep us working, and no leaves from them even on Saturdays and Sundays. And so as they are not also taking. So they are doing lockdown, and for them there is no lockdown. Basically for them this is continuously working. So great. Thank you for joining, everyone. And this is the session on IoT. We have heard lot around what is IoT and what is going on right now, what are the opportunities. And here we are talking about the what is post COVID opportunities. So and we have many questions here, and so where we are going to talk about a little bit on an introduction first. So let me just bring that knowledge to me myself. 1 second. So I'm welcoming Lavnish Chananas, Vice President SAP India, who especially look after the government affairs. And as a Vice President for Government Affairs of Asia Pacific and Japan, Dr. Lavnish Chanana is responsible for driving the public policy and thought leadership. And then we have Mr. Gus Bartholomov. Sorry for if I have pronounced you wrong. Co-founder and CEO of Supply Compass UK. Mr. Gus is co-founder and CEO of Supply Compass, a product development and production management platform that enables fashion brands and manufacturers to produce better and together. So this is welcome, Mr. Gus. And Mr. Naman Patwari. He's a technology young guy and graduate Master's Computer Science from Purdue University, and currently works as a software engineer for Amazon Search in Seattle, USA. He is interested in the application of emerging fields like IoT and 3D printing. Great to hear, Naman. We will be very glad to hear. So the flow would be like I will give you the space and listen your thoughts, and then I have many questions to ask you already, which were received by people, and then we will have question answers from if they come in between. So may I invite the first speaker here, Mr. Lavnish Chanana, to share the views on post-COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's indeed nice. I'm somehow unable to get on to video. It is saying that we can't connect to your webcam. So you will have to bear with me with my voice only. I'll try on the way, in doing the session in case I can do that. Okay. So my understanding of this particular event and this session is this is on IoT specifically, and predominantly what is expected from me in terms of coverage is how is the whole journey of Industry 4.0 being reshaped in the post-COVID era. So to start with, I would like to set the context that post-COVID, if something has been done, one thing that has been done is in terms of the digital adoption by consumers, that has gone up like anything. So digital consumers, which we were thinking probably would be something that we will expect in near future. Actually, the what's in it for me has already been answered, and now we are seeing the reality. Second part is the push that we see from mere digital organizations to digitally intelligent organizations, and that is the key that will reshape, and that is going to get accelerated. And we have been so focused, all of us, in the industry as well as on this, we have been so focused on the digital optimization part, that we wanted to optimize using digital tools, and our focus was that digital optimization would lead to a digital transformation. No longer the case. Digital optimization may not be the sole recipe for digital transformation going forward. And the addition to this is, from mere digital experience, we are going into a management of experience per se. We are moving from the so-called digital economy to an experience economy, and that is something that will reshape the journey that we are talking about on Industry 4.0. And how will this come out? We have been so far so used to the concept of processes consuming data. I think we now will now get focused on data defining processes. That's the difference that we will see. So in terms of value creation through products and services, we will be now focusing on value creation through experience. We were kind of a nascent, maturing digital society. We are moving to a maturing, intelligent society now. That's the shift that is actually going to get accelerated in the post-COVID era. We were so focused on creating innovative business models for organization. We will now go ahead and create innovative organizations itself. That is something new organization that we will do. We were so focused on improving employee productivity, team productivity, collaboration among teamwork. We were so focused on that. From there, I think we will now get into a realization on the existence of machines as co-workers. That is something that we will move on, and from processes we will move to data. Now, what we are trying to say is that we are seeing the emergence of what we call as intelligent enterprises. Now, what is an intelligent enterprises? There are three kinds of tasks. If I see, by focus on automation, by focus on repetitive tasks like my call center calls, my simple production planning, production figure, storage, etc., and the high value task. The focus on the repetitive task is being taken over by machines. That is something. The intelligent enterprises that we see actually are focusing on high value tasks as a differentiator, and that is something that we see, and we see that emergence. So somebody may ask, so what's great about this? This is something that we have been getting used to. The challenge that we have is, this phase of evolution is no longer a one-way evolution. It's a two-way evolution. The data that we are feeding will actually give us the products and solutions. That's the big difference in what we have been doing till now and what we'll be doing now. Second big difference is the impact of technology, and we have seen during COVID-19 era, the impact of technology on people can be so profound that every business and every government will need to think around this to get insights on that. Now, when I talk about experience management, we are shifting from the what and the how to the why part. Now, for example, 80% of CEOs believe that they deliver a good experience to the consumers. Only 8% of consumers feel that way. There is a big opportunity gap. And that's where the role of emerging technologies like IoT. Take the simple example. What we are trying to say is the operational data focus that we had, using IoT, using technology, using this thing, will now need to get supplemented with experience data. So there will be an operational data, there will be an experience data. Two will get merged to create an experience management scenario for my stakeholder groups, whether employees or my customers or the users of my product. Now, if I see COVID has resulted in broadly impacted three broad areas. If I see the first area, obviously, is finance. Finance has managing cash flows, ensuring funding, reworking the margins and goals. That has. Second is to us, to this group, which is most important, is the whole supply chain perspective. Now, in terms of renegotiation, we are consistently looking and we are seeing a trend. I don't know how much of it will finally come to life, is in terms of localization and regionalization of supply chains. That is something that that we are beginning to see, and hence the agility and management of supply chains would become. And third area that COVID has brought onto surface of focus is the whole area of employee management. That is the employee safety, employee well-being, remote team management, remote productivity, and whatnot. Now, having said so, somebody may ask, and the most interesting concept for this group that we have seen during COVID is the whole concept of repurposing of factories. Now that has come to light that yes, we can also do it. Automobile manufacturers producing ventilators, perfume manufacturers producing hand sanitizers. Now the repurposing will require digital enablement as we go forward. And my last point as the submission before I hand it over to you, back to you, is so as a country, then what is that we should look at when we talk about Industry 4.0? Obviously, we need now enabling policies coming out on AI, cloud, and analytics. That is something, we need to create awareness on modeling of complex production systems. Now, this is something that will now need to get merged into my academic curriculum. The broadband infrastructure continues to be an ask for improvement, and that will be the kind of enabling tool for us to actually use what we have been dreaming of. Most important is the cybersecurity and safety will get merged. The public safety and cybersecurity as two disciplines will tend to get merged, and that would create a domain-centric cybersecurity strategies that we have. And in the first session I was listening, people are already talking about creating new organizational models. So work organization and redesign would be another area that will change. My capacity building, and the most important part, and we are seeing this coming around our data privacy and all, is the whole regulatory environment that we will be seeing, emerging dynamically as we talk about technology. So and all this sounds so easy and so simple when a speaker presents. Just to give you one example on this skill today, and there is a survey that we did today. If only 21% of companies feel that they get people skilled in artificial intelligence, 1 in 5 only they feel that they get people skilled in AI, and that be the gap. Just skilling as one pillar in promotion of Industry 4.0 offers a humongous task in front of me. And likewise, we have the data center requirements, the power requirements, the infrastructure, in terms of the job losses that we have been talking. It's a whole concept, and that is where structures like the platform for Industry 4.0 in Germany actually serve a very valid purpose. Now, for those of you, the platform for Industry 4.0 is a cross-stakeholder structure having representation from academia, from industry, from government, from everybody, and they work on each one of these issues. So going forward, to summarize, one, from a digital native, from a digitally maturing society, we will become a digitally intelligent society, and hence there'll be a focus requirement on creating a reference architecture which is standardized, creating policies, creating regulatory environment, cybersecurity, safety, broadband infrastructure, training, and also creating the work organization and design models as we talk about. Now, this is the beginning of a acceleration process. In some sense, there is an opportunity. It will be very interesting to see how it unfolds going forward. Thank you very much for your attention. My apologies for not being able to use the video. I don't know whether you were able to see me or not, but I just went on speaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lavnish. No, we could not see you, but we could hear you very nice and clear and interesting thoughts on opportunities. May I invite Mr. Gus to share your thoughts? And obviously, we are, as you know, we are talking about post-COVID, the paradigm shift, how you see the industry moving. Thank you. Mr. Gus. You have to unmute, Mr. Gus, yourself. Mr. Gus Bartholomew, can you hear me? Are you able to listen? Atulji, Rahulji, please check.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. You are on unmute. You are on mute.
Mr. Gus, can you unmute yourself so that you can speak? It's your turn.
Netaji, we are trying to establish a contact with him through phone. Meanwhile, we can request Mr. Naman Patwari.
Yeah.
And Lavnish, now we can see you.
We can also hear you. We can also hear you and see you now.
After this session,
Naman, great, Naman. Now let's hear you first before Mr. Gus. So you can unmute yourself, and the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share this podium with the esteemed individuals at this connection issues.
Please hold yourself. We will call you after Naman. Be ready for that. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you once again, FICCI, for giving me this opportunity to share this podium with such esteemed individuals and share my couple thoughts on the paradigm shift that IoT has brought around in transportation and logistics. Please bear with me while I share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah,
we can see. Yes, we can see.
Thank you. All right. So my name is Naman Patwari, and I'm here to talk about the paradigm shift brought about in transportation and logistics by IoT. First, just to backtrack a little bit, we're all familiar with what IoT is, but I just wanted to share my views on it. I don't think IoT is just sensors and devices that people sometimes think when they think about IoT. Rather, it's a system of integrated computing devices that work together in harmony to achieve a singular purpose. Like many of the previous presenters in this conference have gone over their products, they have mentioned as it's not just these sensors, but a whole system of collecting data and analyzing it that actually leads to the work being done, the task being achieved. And again, IoT is not really a new topic, in my opinion. It is an ever-evolving landscape that has been around for a while. For example, a simple ATM machine is an excellent example of an IoT machine that has been around for 20 years now. And an ATM is a machine that is connected to the internet and is able to connect to the bank servers and dispense cash and maintain accounts as necessary for different consumers. And it was And an ATM machine was what allowed banks to scale and serve millions of customers across the world. The reason why I think IoT is gaining a lot of steam right now, not just because of the sensors and devices getting smaller and efficient, but because of innovations in other related industries that other speakers in this podium have already brought up. For example, like rollout of IPv6, 4G, and eventually 5G allows us to have millions of these small devices in remote corners of the world and still being able to connect it to our infrastructure to relay data and take actions as required. Then like a lot of these sensors also rely on sending real-time information to computer systems so we can analyze them, and that required a lot of efficiency in cloud computing systems like AWS, which allows you to collect real-time data from these sensors and upload them to a central computer where you can continue doing analyze this data. And obviously, like the advancements in data analyzation cannot be understated, especially through mechanisms like machine learning and deep learning, which allow us to infer this data in whole new ways and make realizations according to that. And one thing that I think is really understated about this whole IoT upcoming is the advancements in privacy that has happened via cryptography and how we can now verify the integrity of the data as well that is being uploaded by these sensors. I will go more into it in the course of this presentation. In this current scenario, as the speakers have also discussed, COVID has definitely impacted the logistics industry in a whole different manner, which was very unprecedented. A lot of studies are still being conducted, but this study by Institute of Supply Management done over the months of March and April on US-based industries reported that 75% of companies had supply chain disruptions and 50% of companies reported unexpected delay in deliveries, which is obvious when you think about it. But it's nice to get these figures, and I'm waiting for the month of May to get over so that more of these studies and data are published so we can have a more data-driven conversation around the impacts of COVID. From my opinion, like I think like these logistics were caused by these key macroeconomic challenges where we're manufacturing services now in an increasingly connected world. Like just when it comes to creating pharmaceuticals, we rely on a lot of products that are imported from different parts of the world like China and Korea to make these medicine. And like when all these different countries are impacted and they're unable to maintain their supply chains, manufacturing takes a hit. And not just that, distribution kind of took a hit as well, because now suddenly you have warehouses that don't have enough staff to stock these devices, to stock inventory. For example, you know, a lot of online medicine delivery companies were unable to deliver the medicine as required during the COVID era, just because of lack of staff in their warehouses. And then similarly, shutdown of retail, which is a huge way of like inventory being shared in the world being stopped. And then increasing consumer hoarding sends out wrong signals to the free market as to what products need to be created more. And that just creates its own challenges. And this shows me that we need digitally transformed logistics. And the rest of the presentation, I'm going to go over my thoughts on this. So leveraging IoT for warehouse management. So back in 2017, I was really lucky to visit one of Amazon fulfillment warehouses where they used thousands of these small autonomous robots. These are called Kiva robots, now branded as Amazon Robotics. It was a startup acquired by Amazon in 2012. And as you can see, these are like these small pods of machines that are completely autonomous, and they interact with each other, and they talk with each other and communicate to avoid clashes between each other. And then their main job is to move these pallets of goods that you see in this video, and they move them across huge fulfillment centers that are over 10,000 square feet long, just to ensure the workers who work in these warehouses can gain access to these goods and pack and fulfill consumer orders as required. As you can see in this clip, like these robots, they communicate with each other and they stop for collision management. As you see, like the robot behind this current robot stopped to not clash into these robots. And like a lot of this is very autonomous, and this just allows a lot of fast tracking of management. And then Amazon strongly believes that it's not robots versus humans, it's robots plus humans. All these robots work in harmony to help workers pack products faster. A very key insight around here was that people feared that these rollout of robots would lead to jobs being lost in the warehouse industry, but it actually led to an addition of 300,000 jobs in the form of manufacturing of these robots, maintaining of these robots, building the whole IT infrastructure, and the workers who worked on these warehouses also becoming way more efficient and fulfilling customer orders. And it's not just these robots. As you can see, there are also huge supply chains across these large conveyor belts across the warehouses as well to ensure packets are moved from one spot to the other in the most efficient manner, so Amazon can fulfill its delivery promises. I'll move on to the next topic. We all know about the Arogya Setu application rollout by the Indian government for contact tracing, and it has served immediate benefits. So from what I understand, Arogya Setu uses GPS and location and Bluetooth to figure out who is in your vicinity to track people. But I feel GPS has an accuracy of 16 feet. So it's not really, it can be pretty spotty to figure out if someone has come in contact with you within 6 feet or not. And Bluetooth allows you to get over it, but Bluetooth connections also go over walls. So someone on the third and the fourth floor the Bluetooth might think someone's sitting on the third and the fourth floor. They might be in contact with each other, but they're definitely not. So I came across this product by ITeS Global, where they use these RFID tags for better contact tracing. And this is scoped down to a warehouse staffing issue, where if you want to do efficient contact tracing across your employees in a warehouse, how you would go around doing it. These tags use light rays that can penetrate through human bodies and have an accuracy of 0.1 meters to figure out who is coming in within 6 feet distance of each other. And what I really liked about the system is that it also sent out a preemptive signal to people as well. Like, for example, if two people were 7 feet apart from each other and were about to encroach into 6 feet, it would send a vibration or some sort of an alarm to the individual, knowing them that, hey, you are about to come in contact. Please don't go any closer, because prevention is better than cure. And at the end of the day, this also tracks all the different infractions that happen when people do come in contact with each other and store it in a central database. And at the end of the day, the warehouse management people can just run data models on the people that came in contact with each other and identify a small subset of employees that need to be tested to accurately predict which warehouse workers need to be quarantined for the next day and make better decisions. So this was one product I really wanted to share and bring to people's attention. Third thing, I also wanted to talk about a little bit about how IoT is transforming our transportation landscape. This Smart Trucking by DHL was a program launched by DHL back in 2018. And in 2019, they tied up with Sneha Farms, which is a leading poultry conglomerate, and they offered them cold shipping trucks and all of the different things across the border. So Smart Trucking by DHL, basically think of it like connected cars, where they were tracking all the key metrics of a car, like tire pressure, temperature of the goods inside the services, how much fuel the car was using, and based on the data collected, they were able to make smarter decisions. And in the pilot program run with Sneha Farms, they were able to reduce transit time by 50% and increase reliability of products by 95%, especially in a poultry setting where temperature of the products being shipped across is really important. And another thing I wanted to talk about was the FDA DSCA pilot project program. So FDA is the Federal Drug Administration program in America, and DSCA stands for the Digitized Supply Chain Security Act, where FDA is kind of it has given out a bunch of contracts to individual private contractors to figure out new technologies and how they can overhaul the whole medicine supply chain. especially given in the current COVID situations. I feel like this pilot, the data provided by this program will be really valuable. This program was started in August of 2019 and it's supposed to end in 2020. So again, I'm really looking forward to the data that comes out from this program. I wanted to end my presentation by talking about a few concerns that I've seen people raise generally about IoT. One is about the loss of jobs. I'd again go back to the example of the ATM, where people were afraid that ATM would just, the rollout of ATMs would just lead to people, a lot of bank tellers losing their jobs. But the rollout of these ATMs led to more jobs being created on manufacturing these ATM machines, maintaining and then restocking these ATM machines as well. Similarly, like we're standing here right now because of the industrial age. And when the industrial age happened, people were very apprehensive of adding factories everywhere because it could lead to loss of a lot of jobs. But again, it led to a creation of a lot of jobs. So we really need to embrace technology and not fight it, because we do not know the potentials that it has and the kind of jobs it can create in the future. Second thing I hear a lot about is privacy issues, and this is something that I'm very concerned with as well. And that is why I'm really, that's why like I took an active interest in cryptography in college, and especially like for the contact tracing project that we talked about, that if we were to roll it out across the world, we would not want a central government or a central organization keeping track of everywhere where you go, even though that service is necessary. But using cryptography and but like I don't want to go into details, but using a bunch of different security algorithms, you can ensure that people's identities are not compromised when they're uploading their interactions with different people online. And when they want to say that, and when they want to let the database know that they have been infected, and so that the database can let the other people know who they came in contact with to get tested, that can be done in a very privacy manner as well. And here I would like to roll out a very favorite quote of mine, like good intentions pave the road to hell. Like central governments can have the best intentions in heart to have these privacy concerns and guarantee that third-party people will not have access to it. But it's really hard to do that unless you have concrete steps to ensure such privacy. And the last step that people talk about a lot is like, a lot of these technologies sound utopian, and India has a lot of small cities and towns spread in the most remote corners of India. And all these new technologies would really benefit big cities and kind of leave these small towns in dust. Here I would argue that the rate of technology, I'm blanking out on the word, intersection. So the rate of technology intersection has generally increased. What I mean by that is people are more willing to adopt newer technology now compared to than they were a couple of years ago, especially with the rollout of internet and mobile phones. Like I was born in a really small town in Durgapur in West Bengal. And even there, you have a lot of startups who are providing their services there. For example, medicine service companies and food delivery companies. Because with the rollout of mobile phones and internet, companies know who the consumers are, and they don't want to miss out on any potential revenue stream. And given the huge population living in towns and cities, it's only a matter of time before all these technologies, once tested in big cities, are rolled out to small cities as well. So it's just a matter of time before we see these technologies everywhere and everyone benefiting from it. That is all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Naman. Very wide spectrum you have covered in your presentation. Great to hear. Can we have now Mr. Gus to share his thoughts? Mr. Gus?
Yeah. Hi. So, I think what I wanted to kind of start with here is just to give a bit of context in terms of what we do at Supply Compass and what we're seeing in terms of trends. So we are basically, our mission is to digitize fashion supply chains and enable sustainable sourcing at scale for every player within the supply chain. So we are generally working with SMEs in the fashion space, menswear, women's wear, kids wear. And basically what we provide is software which can be used throughout the design, development and production management process of the supply chain. And I wholeheartedly believe the huge impact that Industry 4.0 can have on these processes. I think that it's important that we really understand first and foremost what we're actually talking about when it comes to Industry 4.0 and where we are on that journey to date. If we actually kind of think about what it is, this is actually about having a fully interconnected network of Internet of Things, smart sensors, highly advanced robotics, cloud computing at first and foremost, augmented reality, 3D printing. It's about having this single source of truth throughout the whole supply chain. And I think it's really interesting what Noam was touching upon before in terms of where we're currently at with that, and interesting to kind of hear about fulfillment and logistics. I think if we look at the whole supply chain, it's interesting that the points that are closest to the customer is really where we've seen the majority of the innovation so far. But what is interesting is, yes, you've got the likes of Amazon who are actually investing heavily in things like that amazing video of the fulfillment center, but this makes up such a small proportion of what is actually out there at the moment. If we look at the UK market, 99% of businesses in the UK are SMEs, and they're not doing things digitally at all yet, really. Definitely not at the stage of kind of Internet 4.0. And I think also if we start looking back further in the supply chain, it becomes even more manual. So you've got fulfillment centers doing things digitally in some cases, but the vast majority aren't. You've then got logistics, and touching on players like DHL. Well, if you look at global freight forwarders, the whole industry still relies on paper chitties to get exports out of countries and into countries. Like, it is incredibly manual still. We then go back further and look at factories and what's actually happening there. I mean, so in India, there are over 1 lakh garment manufacturers across the country. I spent the first couple of years of the business visiting as many as I could have visited over about 300 different garment manufacturers across India, and saw firsthand the kind of technologies that they're using. And the reality is, and this goes for the world over, is that we are not yet at a place where we have interconnected softwares being used at scale. I think it's interesting to note that the technologies that do exist are quite useful, but they're incredibly siloed. And really, the big challenge that we have is to ensure that we have rapid adoption of easy to use interconnected technologies. And even if we go back further from factories to actually where we're looking at raw materials, in the garment supply chain, the processes within farms are fully manual. It's people picking cotton. So I think it's important just to understand where we're at in this journey of kind of Industry 4.0. Fully believe in a lot of the efficiencies it can bring, and that's really exactly what we are doing at supply companies. But I think that we need to understand the actual steps that we need to take to get there. And I think this kind from the fashion supply chain, it needs to be driven by all parties within the supply chain. We're working with fashion SMEs in the UK and Europe and Australia. Most of them still run incredibly manual processes for their design and their production management. And so it's what we need to ensure is that we are getting all of these people using digital tools for every part of the process. and that is starting to happen. I think what has been really interesting about COVID is that these are the things that people have been talking about for a number of years now, but no action has really been taken because people have been quite set in their ways. You know, we've always done it like this, we don't need to change. But what COVID has done is really, really forced that change overnight. And I think this is why it's such an interesting time to be working in supply chains, because suddenly you've got everyone stuck at home. Designers are having to try and design collaboratively when they're used to working on pen and paper. So they have to be working in the cloud. They have to be using new technologies that enable that to happen. They can't, and probably for the foreseeable future, aren't going to be able to go and build the relationships and visit the factories like they have been kind of used to. You know, and it's interesting to see how this has changed over time. You know, it used to be standard practice in the 70s and 80s when government manufacturing for export really kind of took off, where you'd go and sit with a factory for weeks and design together, you know, and then email completely changed things. But we need to now make that new step change to doing everything digitally and having a fully interconnected network. So I think this is really the bit that I find interesting. I think there are so many interesting technologies out there, but we need to ensure that we are taking a fully cohesive and interconnected approach to building all of these technologies and not doing them in silos, because that is actually what has kind of happened to date. We've seen great advancement in things like fulfillment and logistics, but if we really want to do this properly and we want to enable full traceability of product, which is a huge part of how you actually enable sustainable sourcing at scale, we need to be able to trace a product from seed at a farm the whole way through to a customer's hand. When we're designing how to do it in fulfillment, we need to be thinking about what the system is and the architecture of the processes are at the very start. So I think that's kind of the area I'd say that we need to advance cautiously. We need to ensure that there is a single source of truth, a place where all information can plug into, and that we have this connectivity going on. So yeah, I think kind of in summary, I think it's very interesting to see, because yes, there are a few players that are really advancing things, but the vast majority of businesses on both sides of the equation, or all sides of the kind of the supply chain equation, are SMEs, and there is a long way to go there. One of the things that we talk about is actually first and foremost, let's try and get people off pen and paper. If you go and look in a lot of designers' rooms, or you go and look in a lot of factory floors, people are using pen and paper to ensure that they're checking production, that errors aren't happening, that people are designing that way. So we're going to see this huge step change and a sudden change to doing things. But I think it's important to understand where we need to go, and there's also such a huge amount that needs to be done in the technology area, especially when it comes to things like machinery. You know, the factory floors generally are still very manual. There are developments in terms of 3D robots that can start to do some simple stitching, but that is really only for kind of simple products at the moment. So there is a machine, it's incredibly expensive, that can do the majority of a t-shirt, but that is one of the most simple garments around. If we look and see how much more is needed, and how designers need to design and feed information in to actually do a complex product, there's still so much more to do. So I remain very, very hopeful and very much committed to the fact that this is the future. But I think we first and foremost need to start with the basic principles of ensuring that each area of the supply chain is digitized in a manner that is also respecting everything that is up and downstream of that individual node.
Perfect, Mr. Gus. I personally think that you are sitting on a very big opportunity in this difficult time. And I have been speaking about that startups in this system, when we are living, was a buzzword, and they thrive on one thing: a solution to the problem. And pandemic situation brings the problems in every sphere of life. You can name it, there is a problem. And this requires a complete re-engineering and reinventing almost every process we have gone through, and which brings an opportunity. And IoT is obviously a very central focal point where the machineries are going to be interconnected, and they are going to be bringing lot more processes, lot more opportunities in place. So let us move to the questions. I already have many questions in place, and people are really looking forward to listen to the esteemed speakers. And Dr. Lavnish, directly you have a question. The question is how IoT and AI can integrate in SAP and MS Office, and how Google Assistant and Cortana of Microsoft in SAP and MS Office works. Will it help in this scenario? And another question I want to also give it to you, and then maybe other speakers also speak, because it is very related to Rajasthan per se, or India per se, that CBSE curriculum, IoT, how IoT can help in learning and training. So these are the two things. So one is directly to you, one is common. Unmute yourself, Dr. Lavnish.
So frankly, I am not a product expert on integration to talk about. The second question is fairly simple for me. We have been advocating the need for a curriculum-based, school curriculum-based skill development for IoT. In fact, we partnered with a number of government organizations. Say, for example, we partnered with the Atal Innovation Mission of Niti Aayog to actually enable children to lay their hands on these technologies and skill. The idea is not to create an expertise at that stage, but the idea is to create an awareness and exposure at that stage, which will lead to future talent pools. Now, to some extent, the thought process has already begun. Has it come to a stage where we see IoT, or things that are formally included in syllabus like CBSE or others that you mentioned? Probably no, but I'm quite hopeful that some of the boards are already seriously thinking, and it will get added very soon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lavnish. Hope it answers the question for the audience. Very simple scenario, which also reflects in the questions to me, is this social distancing is a norm, and this is going to be replicated everywhere. In this current scenario, what kind of adoption of an IoT is going to be more focused, which brings an opportunity for all kind of solution developers? So can you cite some examples which you think are definitely is going to be on the cards, which are low hanging fruits, and people should look for these opportunities for building or adoption? So and one by one, you can actually all three of you address that.
Okay, I'll let the others speak and then I'll come forward. I just spoke.
Naman, you want to say something?
Yeah. So if I understand the question correct, it's like for efficient rollout of contact tracing, what are some low-hanging fruits that we can go after? So I think like one is definitely in the privacy area. As I mentioned, like governments can have best of good intentions to not share the data with third party, but unless you have mechanisms built in to enforce such privacy, it doesn't really work out. So yeah, like from a privacy concern, there's a lot of information already out there on the internet to see how you can ensure privacy in the contact tracing rollout. So there's definitely that. And second is also like, as currently in India, Arga Setu uses GPS and Bluetooth, and I pointed out some drawbacks of it, and probably like some better technology there with a lower range of with a higher accuracy is probably a way to go when it comes to the contact tracing world.
Gus, you want to say something?
if you understand
I think I would probably mirror similar things there. I mean, I think in terms of rollout, these are kind of most important things that we need to be looking at.
Yeah, and if I can add, when it comes to social distancing, I believe wearables will have a big role going forward, in terms of ensuring the distancing, etc. We will soon see, apps around that, other than the mobile Arogya Setu or stuff like that. Very gradually we should see the emergence of wearables highlighting you that you are in close contact or in unsafe distance zone. We should see that.
Yeah, I would agree, Dr. Lavnish. I would expect as something like ring, which you can wear in your finger, and if you are in a proximity of 6 feet distance, it could be in less than $1 ring, and everybody in the world can probably try to bring in and then bring the price to maybe 50 cents or something, and it just does two things. One, if it can receive a data from somewhere, if somebody is positive near to you, or you are closing to somebody. It's a huge opportunities like these in days to come. So anybody you would like to say about, of course, Lavnish and Naman can say about the scenario for Rajasthan. So do you say something related to, the question is very simple, where do you see IoT industry in Rajasthan? Do you have any idea, speakers?
Okay, so so one obviously, when we look at the IoT industry per se, one obviously is the whole devices, these sensors. The second is the apps that we built over that, and the application that we. And third obviously is the whole servicing components in domain that comes in, right? If we look at, and Rajasthan is not a separate state. If you look at any state for that matter, our current current inclination is to first look at use cases for adoption in particular sectors, whether it's auto, whether it's retail, whether it's logistics or others, and then develop a skill set there. And that's where different states have taken lead in different segments. Now, if you go down south, you see auto being the major skill availability. That has happened. What probably the opportunity that lies ahead for states is on the other two parts. That is the whole sensor industry, that creation of facilities that will help, and the devices. And second, the generic apps of the likes that I think the next wave of the so-called competition between states and Rajasthan, to the best of my understanding, has never been left behind in any competition. So once you show competition to Rajasthan, you see a huge spirit of development and all. So I personally see that this will come up very soon.
Yeah, thank you. And we were the first to lock down, even Rajasthan. So we try to take lead in almost everything, and we have the best control among all the states related to Corona in terms of mortality rate and the recovery. Another thing which Mr. Gus, especially to you, is you see that manufacturing of IoT devices, we are going to be more shifting towards India, comparing the China is under the stress right now, and people are now trying to move somewhere. So you see some opportunities for the industry to build and manufacture IoT devices in India, and something is shifting from your region here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what we're seeing globally is that each country is kind of having to take a very specific approach dependent on exactly what their kind of requirements are, and hence why different tracing apps are being launched in different countries. I think inherently India has the ability, the capability to build exactly what is required for the country. So no, I fully believe that something will be rolled out very soon on that front.
Great. And I think once Apple has also shifted its some of the manufacturing here, so we have a great model of this global giant is here. So almost every company can look at that. It's a conducive atmosphere here. And of course, in the morning, our chief secretary has said openly that we are going to leave no stone unturned. If somebody is coming here, we will do everything else, open up everything, welcome with the red carpet, and there. So if somebody is looking for IoT manufacturing or doing something in India, please feel free to contact FICCI, and they would be very happy to connect with the government of machinery. Another question is, how do you see the process automation of AI in the corporate governance? A little bit away from IoT, but this is, let us try to merge it with IoT and then also answer it. Lavnish, do you want to take it?
Maybe I would let, because this is the use case based specifically to corporate governance that somebody has asked me. I'll let it be answered by Naman. He presented some of them.
From what I understand, like corporate governance is kind of like a whole umbrella, but where I see like AI kind of playing a role is in training new hires to like get accustomed faster to the workforce, of like and like not requiring a lot of time of already currently working people to have to spend time to train the newcomers. That's where I see the potential use of machine learning and AI coming in the corporate governance era. I hope that answers the question. I think training falls under corporate governance. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so if you look back, so a lot of people try to merge technologies in different ways and different things. And I was avoiding the AI route to get into, because then we will have a lot many discussions around AI. But AI plays a role in IoT for sure as a component to bring more intelligence. And I have a specific question around contexts. So in this scenario of COVID, and we are specifically talking about post-COVID and paradigm shift. So I want to bring a thought process, and I want the answer from all three of you to only one simple question. While the physical contact of 2 meters is going to be a norm, the exchanging of a business card is also going to be a troublesome issue. Then meeting the people is also going to be not a very likable idea. When you enter into a hotel room, you are not going to be using that key which has been used by somebody else. You are going to be very wary about all the physical touches which happens with two exchanges, a coffee or a Starbucks, or having a cup, serving somebody a tea or a glass. All those things are going to be a very challenging thing. How does IoT come into picture in all those contact-based scenarios? Sensing is fine. How do you solve these problems? So let's start with the youngest man here, Naman.
Listening and thinking of thoughts. If someone else has something to say.
Okay, Mr. Gus.
So it's already happening in one way or the other. You know, sorry if I stopped you, Gus.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
You know, it's already happening, and there have been experiments, if you see in the past, wherein, you know, there have been RFID based heel you know, devices with that people wear in heels, and the machine senses that, and based on that, a user interface, if you are a skilled worker, is given to you. A different user interface is given if you are a semi-skilled, or given the identification. I think a lot of this virtual identification and virtual exchange of this thing will be the next wave of you know, the technology application landscape that we will be seeing. You and me, when we meet, we will not shake hands, but using probably Bluetooth or devices that you and me wear, we will exchange business cards. You will come to know that I have done what, and I have done what. You know, you will come to know. It may happen, you know, but with the assumption that this is going to continue to be the norm, and we don't have a vaccine, or we don't have a thing coming. So this is a dynamic situation, but virtual exchange of identification and virtual you know, interface between humans and machines, right? Between humans to humans, humans to machines, and machines to machines would drive the next wave of application landscape.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's interesting with this is that what COVID has done it has brought a new constraint to our everyday lives in terms of how we need to act. Now, a lot of the things, if we kind of walk through a normal day, where we talk about like all of the touches that happen, well, I think there are actually already quite there's technology there which could be applied to that and be used. And I'll come on to give some examples of that. But I think what's interesting is that we've now currently suddenly got these new constraints, and therefore it's really about how quickly can we roll out the new applications of technology to enable us to do that. So, you spoke about, okay, you go to a hotel room and, you have a card. Well, a card is just a sensor which, we already have NFC for payments. We're already used to doing that. So, it's a time to use money less. We'll use our phone. A lot of, interesting that I'm in the UK at the moment, a lot of takeaways and restaurants have said no cash, will only accept card or phone payments. So you've already kind of overcome that challenge. So it's really a matter of, okay, how quickly can hotels roll out these new locks that enable you to do that? You might say, okay, well, another point, when you're getting into your car, you're touching a handle. Well, you've already got boots that open themselves. Why can't doors open themselves when you come close to a phone? Okay. We don't want to be touching doors when we go in. Well, there's lots of simple solutions. Okay, let's make sure we have a revolving door rather than a swing door. Yes, I think there's lots of things in the kind of your day-to-day world that can actually be very quickly adapted. I think what I've found really interesting to kind of observe over the last couple of months is really the behavioral changes that have happened, and actually how quickly humans are willing to adapt. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have probably be having this in real life, and we'd all been shaking hands. But actually, we're doing this where we're all social distancing and there's no contact. So we're actually able to apply technologies that we already have to this new normal. And I think it's just a matter of being creative and adapting and rolling it out as quickly as possible. That will be the big challenge, really, how quickly we can roll these things out to new applications.
Yep. Well said, Mr. Gus. Naman.
I agree with what Mr. Gus said, and it's all going to be about rollout. And then as the need arises, economy of scale is going to kick in, and then the sensors are going to get cheaper, whatever solutions there are. And yeah, like most solutions already exist out there. It's just a matter of implementing it. And one last call out, like while we're on this topic, I'd want to say is like, maybe a lot of these concerns will be a bit will go away once like we do have a vaccine out there, or once like more studies can show that maybe the germs don't spread through just contact of contaminated surfaces. So right, like it's an important problem to think of, but again, at the same time, like we don't want to be solving a problem that might not exist or might not be required. So yeah, we should like allocate capital and our resources accordingly as well. But I'm not trying to downplay the situation as well. But there are solutions required.
But I'm sure these innovations are not going away. These innovations are going to be adopted, and some portion of that, even if we do not have any virus or COVID, some portion always stays back. Just like the IT industry is hoping that work from home is going to stay for long. We never experienced that. So even if there is no virus, work from home is going to be a norm for some percentage for sure. And this is going to be residual. Or some people would definitely try as a practice that it's good to not to shake hand and good to not to hug. There may be some germs, there may be something which you could avoid. So something will remain definitely for us. So we have actually luxury of another 5-7 minutes because we started early. So I want to leave you with 1 minute each. Some final message you would like to leave with the audience about IoT post-COVID, specifically post-COVID. So let us say we are fighting COVID and we have won over. Now the COVID is getting over. So how do you see this scenario of IoT getting into our life in a positive way, and how do we see this adoption? 1 minute each. Let's start with Lavnish.
Okay, so I see if we look at the pre-COVID and even the the pre-COVID era, the whole IoT development, was centered around what I can offer, and that led to a generation of a demand, that this is what I can offer. So it was more of a push solutioning, and then leading to some kind of a, I think post COVID, it will be more of a pull scenario that will work, wherein the demand will be, very clear, and the solutioning around that would be very focused. So that reversal of trend from a technology finding an application in the domain, to a domain asking for an application which will be technology centric, is likely to see, it is likely to take shape.
Mr. Gus?
Yeah, so I think that I would kind of summarize it like this. I think that the potential that exists to have a fully connected and digital network, especially when it comes to the supply chains, is huge and will be absolutely transformational to the industry. I think what we must ensure, though, is that we are laying the foundations in the right way, and that we are, whenever we are thinking about a solution, we are always looking at the whole. We are looking at every single point that it can be connected to. We cannot develop solutions for this in isolation. We need to consider every single node within the value chain. And by doing that, we will be able to ensure that adoption is rapid and that the value that is being created is huge. So those are really the things that I would ask people to consider.
Naman?
I guess my message would be like to think big and think bold after the post-COVID era. So for example, a radical idea like vertical farming, where you could have a small you could have a building that grows plants, essential food and plants, just enough to feed a small community around it. And we could see a whole era of these vertical farms spread up, come up in the same city, but each growing very essential food services that even if our global supply chains go away, we can still feed ourselves. We still have those essential services. And IoT will play a huge role in that. If you think about from a vertical farming perspective, there will be a huge number of devices in there constantly monitoring plant feed, plant temperature, how much food the plant is making and stuff, and just key metrics like that. So I would say post-COVID, go wild with your thoughts, go big. Let's get some solutions out there that can change the world for better.
Great, Naman. And I think we come to an end. Before that, I want to tell Dr. Lavnish and Gus, in this difficult scenario when the lockdown started in Rajasthan, government of Rajasthan went down first in the lockdown, and they thought about e-pass, where the automation started at that time, and people could apply for a pass for essential services or emergency services sitting at their home via the mobile app and on the website, and they could get the pass sitting at their home. No meeting, no required, and the first time that was witnessed that you could actually get a pass from a government without meeting anybody, without knowing an officer, without knowing an authority. This was done by us at that time. For 40 days, this development continued in Android and web, and this entire thing has done almost 1.7 million pass processes in Rajasthan. Rajasthan had been leading this time. 25 people team, 20 people at home, 5 people at office. I never imagined that I would build a software with 5 people in my office before COVID. This kind of examples create a benchmark that this is possible. And not only possible, this is possible when you have a complete restriction on a movement. You cannot move.
Yeah.
Right now, it is allowed to move. So I guess what Naman said, what Lavnish said, and what I hear just from you is that it is the time to look at the adoption, look at the new solutionizing, look at the demands, and people need to think more positive to solve those problems. And IoT is going to play an important role. We all are going to play an important role in our sectors. and deliver solutions while keeping ourselves safe and secure. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for sharing your valuable thoughts, valuable time on Saturday evening. I must thank you and leave it to Atul for that now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for another wonderful session, and thank you to all the speakers, Dr. Janama, us, Mohan, and have a nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Atul. Thank you, everyone.